when there's that requirement, because, you know, the longer we delay things, sometimes the costlier it is to the city of Flint. And I'm just
But
want to hear.
so we're looking at a scenario in terms of trying to get a buyer in the department.
A buyer?
An additional buyer. That will assist us in terms of the actual, the turning over of the requisitions a little quicker. Because that individual will be able to look at doing the full procurement process of an actual requisition, along with the assistance on a part-time basis of a clerical as well.
So would the buyer be a full-time FTE, or are we looking at a professional service contract?
Well, we're looking at more so of a part-time type of scenario that would assist us during the peaks, which is generally from a period of March to November, in which that's when we generate a majority of our requests and they require our actual process. That's based on the current ordinance as it stands now.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Dave.
Also, please, I think, from my experience working with purchasing over the last year, and dealing also with the lead service line replacement program, purchasing has those spikes, no question about it. Specifically, end of the year and the beginning of the fiscal year. Okay, so as we're coming into the end of the fiscal year, we're encumbering and making sure that the accounting records are in place to transfer those balances over. And then getting things started for the next fiscal year. So a part-time scenario would assist. And I can certainly tell you that with the lead service line replacement program going on right now and dealing with that, the heavy lifting is pretty much done, but we're now playing catch-up, okay, on a couple contracts. And so that's where we are right now. But at the end of the day, either a service contract or a part-time scenario that Derek has outlined over the end of the fiscal year and beginning of the fiscal year would help.
But right now, there's no additional funding in the purchasing department for that person. I mean, got everybody funded, the two people funded, and then the third person that come over on part-time basis. So is that something that we need to look at, Dave, now, or what are your?
My recommendation would be to hold off for right now, and if we do it, it'd be on a contractual basis, if we really needed it.
How much are we talking in funding for a part-time person, Derek? 30,000? 35,000?
So we were looking at a rate of maybe possibly $7.19 to no more than $20.99 an hour.
$7.19.
$17.19.
I thought you said $17.
I didn't say any more.
We're not even I got out my breath there.
Okay. So when you talk about part-time, are we talking about, 1,040 hours a year, or?
Well, you're looking at
2,080 full-time.
29 hours, it's got to be 29 hours, 28 hours, 29 hours a week or less. Because if not, then you're getting into the healthcare issue. And you don't want to be getting into the healthcare issue. Okay. So that's the other problem, that's the other problem we're going to have here, Mr. Chair, is, okay, what do you want to cut in order to bring this on? That's the big challenge.
Where do we want to cut?
Right. Well, what new revenue sources do we want to utilize?
Probably a couple departments that are going to be here this afternoon, probably going to find some money in. I mean,
We'll see how it goes.
But, look, I just want to make sure that the process isn't being delayed. I mean, I know, and I'll accept responsibility when it gets to the council, because we delay stuff for more information or whatever reason. But from the time of purchase order starts to salaries of part-time position. Okay? All right.
Mr. Chair?
For my colleagues,
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
the Council President, Monica?
No, I'm sorry, Ms. Kemp.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's just real quick. Derek, when this buyer that we were saying, and I know things get, because me and you have had conversations and this gets overwhelming at times. This position that we're talking about now, would that take some of the pressure and also you and the other person, to get things, turn around, a better turnaround?
But what will happen is that in purchasing, what we've been doing is that um, we assign the individual to some specific departments. So right now, we have, like, Brian takes care of the utilities, and I take on the rest. And so what we will be able to do is to kind of divvy that up where those areas will be. We'll have less departments to take care of. Myself will have less, and then that other individual will kind of be the buffer to help us.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Monica?
Thank you. I'm sorry for being late. Are we on page 10 and 11 in the
Yes, ma'am.
presentation? Okay. I just wanted to make sure. And so with that, are we discussing the area in general as it relates also to not just the process we talked about, but what about like the bidding piece of it? Are we not there yet?
That's all part.
This is the purchasing section of the city.
Okay, and the reason why I asked that is I heard you say that with the lead service lines, maybe I misunderstood, but it sounded like you said the majority of what would be done on that has already been done. Is that what you were
The
saying?
first $40 million worth of work has been bid out and has been awarded, and they're starting work. That was a yeoman's effort. Let me tell you, Derek and Brian did a great job pulling that together, and also Derek has put together, now obviously we gotta get people paid, and Derek and Tamar have done a nice job putting together a payment process. Okay, so that we stay within state and federal law when we pay our vendors. So that took a long time, that takes a lot of work, okay? So at the end of the day, in order to meet those goals, other contracts had to, we had to set those aside. And now we'll be coming back with those contracts as we progress forward in the next month or so.
And the reason why I was asking that is because as we look at where we are even today, this process is going to be another 2 years or so.
Well, as the projects, overall, yes, as the projects continue, I guess you're gonna have another lead service line replacement. We'll be doing, depending on how the water options go, various purchases either at the plant or, doing water main replacement, one or the other. So while Derek stays focused on that, a part-time person would help in that respect.
And the reason why, and I guess it's a little disappointing, and Derek, I want to, if nobody's ever said it to you, I want to apologize. Because I can imagine, just since I've been on, the workload that your department has been responsible for, the backlash at some of the processes, whether we understand it or not, perceived or not, the perception has been some of the things have not been done the way that they should or could have been done. And so first I just want to commend you for what you've done all of this time, and to say that it's very disappointing that with all of the responsibilities that are being taken on by this department, that we would be sitting here saying, where are we taking money? Because some of the budgets are heavy loaded on travel, and I could go on, David. And so the point that I'm making is the integrity of that department sets the precedent for a lot of what goes on in this team. They are in making sure that the processes are done, contractors are paid, while also taking RFPs, doing the necessary research that I can imagine on that, and still requiring the day-to-day operations are not even being handled because of the current situation that we find ourselves in. And I said all that to say that it should be a priority for us not only to look at a part-time person, but maybe even a couple, because the reality is there is still a lot that needs to be done. We're gonna have contracts, possibly trash contracts that are gonna need to be rebid out, different things that are gonna have to be rebid out. And if there is the perception that the integrity of a process can't have its normal time frame done because the pressure is so thick, it's just not fair. And so, Scott, I know you know the budget probably better than anybody, and I don't know it as well, but I know that there are a lot of areas that seem like we're putting a lot of money over into areas that are not as crucial as what the purchasing department does. And so if we could really look at those 28 hours and under, even for two people, at least for the next 2 years, I think it would be very responsible on our behalf. And so I just want to say that.
And I understand the question. We allocate percentage of revenue from other departments, like special revenue funds and enterprise funds for that.
Yes.
And where's that? Is that reflected on page, on this one, for purchasing, or is that back in the, like, special revenue or?
Now, what'll happen is, where's the direct cost? Yeah,
Are those just transfers to this fund that, for this department?
that's right. If you go to page 57, 56 in your book, well, if you go to page 57, 56 in your book, you'll see the transfers in that are coming from the other departments to fund part of Derek's salary, my salary, the dog's salary.
That comes to these bottom lines here.
That's correct. So then that builds up the revenue, which in
So
turn
it's not
allows.
all just general.
That's correct.
Okay.
If you go to page 56 or 57,
Departments like purchasing and treasury.
This is the May 18th City of Flint budget hearing.
Right. And can I ask a question, David, with the impact and responsibility with the water replacement lines and the impact that it has brought to the purchasing department? Are there funds within those funds that are coming from the state or the federal level, are there funds available to increase the staffing? Because these type of things would not normally be a function that they would have if this wasn't going on.
the WIN funds do allow for this type of expenditure.
And so have we then allocated money from the WIN fund to source these positions that we're talking about right now?
No, what we've done is we allocated some of Derek's time and some of Derek's time to the WIN fund. And then also the state of Michigan has made available to us, a buyer, if we so choose to utilize that buyer in helping the purchasing of commodities.
So with the conversation that we just had for the last 15 minutes, about a buyer and finding money, we already found money, is what you're saying?
Well, what happens is this, what we've done is we've allocated part of Derek's salary to that, okay? Now, it just depends on what his actual hours are into the project, and we then apply those dollars to the project. So for instance, on the $5 million and then the $40 million project, Derek had charged his time to that, and we budgeted for that.
Right, but we know that Derek doesn't have enough help.
If you wanted to allocate some of those funds for an extra person, you could do that.
So why wouldn't we do that? Or why haven't we done that?
Because we had staff on hand that's handled the work.
Not successfully, David, because if we're backlogged, it's not successful. I'm sorry, David.
Thank you. So at the end of the day, the response to this is that purchasing has handled the work, and we've also had the availability of a person, just recently had the availability of a purchaser from the same issue.
But David, I hear what you're saying, but the reality is, we're talking about all of these things as if they're handling it, but they're not caught up with, or maybe you guys are. Are you caught up today, Derek?
Well, what's happening now is that we're in the process of closing out the current fiscal year, and then we're doing work for the new fiscal year. So this is again a spike period. What will basically happen is that during the closing part, we have certain dates in which we are having departments submit information in terms of trying to finally close this fiscal year. And then we are working in conjunction with getting purchase orders for the new fiscal year. Are we backed up? Well, we're generally backed up during this period of time because of those two incidents. The only time that I know, if this occurs like in September and October, because generally it takes us about a quarter to get the purchase orders for the new fiscal year before you even process as well. If we fall behind at that point, that's when we tend to, we can get behind. So at this point, I can't gauge it right now because we're doing so much. And we won't really know until like September as it relates to, okay, where can we stand? Because again, we have all of these things coming in together.
Okay. And so, last thing. So, David, what do we need to do to get a buyer salary allocated from the, like, who decides that the help is necessary?
Well, again, at the end of the day, what happens here is the administration is going to set up a budget, and council will decide whether they want to fund that budget or not.
So if we wanted to fund a buyer to help in that department, which we've talked all this time about, there being a need.
Well, I would say that it would be nice to have the buyer in the building, accessible to you guys, and I would like to apply for that position since I was an associate buyer for the Gerald Hudson Company. I don't have buying experience, so if you'd like to think about that, put it on your plate.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
That's my proposition.
Okay. All right, anything else for purchasing permit?
10-11, okay.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Derek.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank you.
the work that you do. I mean, really do.
Yep, thank you, Derek.
Mr. Chair, if I may, if we could go to page 11, 12, we're gonna take on the city clerk section.
Right? All right.
Okay, Mr. Chair, what you have here, we're gonna get into the city clerk's department, page 11 or 12, depending on which book you have. On the first page, you have the office of the clerk, and you have the section for licenses and permits. Excuse me. Any questions on page 11, 12?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, moving along then.
I'm on 11.
11, 12, any questions on page 11/12?
Now,
Monica?
so, this is the license and permits, right? So, Inez, is your area properly staffed for the things that are happening in licensing and permits?
We are doing the best that we can with the staff that we have in licensing and permits. And what I have in that division are 3 very experienced people who've been with me for a while. And so we've been able to carry out the necessary assignments thus far.
So are the licensing and permits, they're not backlogged, they're not behind, we are keeping pace? And the reason why I'm asking is because there are some businesses that I've heard that struggle with that process. And so I was wondering, are you aware of any glitches in the process, or?
Well, because of the transition that we've had to go through as a result of when the emergency manager was here, he took them away from us for whatever reason. But from a national perspective, what we were able to convince, I believe, the council of is the fact that all business licensing nationally handled out of the clerk's office. And so therefore, you all were kind enough to transfer everything back to us. But what we've had to do is to comply with the current ordinance, whereby they have the licensing now in numerous kind of categories, whereby, let's say with accountants and other professionals that we never licensed before, very soon we're gonna have to send letters to them requesting that they come in and purchase a license, okay? So we're in that particular process. So it's kind of a mixed bag, so to speak, at this point. Now, before we do that, the staff and I had a meeting the other day. We want to be able to converse with the council because it is a new transition. And in that regard, because we find ourselves in this particular place from an economic development standpoint with the water crisis and so forth, we certainly don't want to do anything to take away or to push away the influx of professional people that might come into the community.
Mhm.
So because the licensing was changed without your all's involvement and without our involvement, we want to be able to, before we do anything, get with you all and talk about it.
Okay.
Okay?
And I want to make sure that we actually do that. And you said that you have 3 experienced people that have been with you for a long time. Is that all that is in the license and permits department?
No, the staff is cross-trained also to do elections.
Mm-hmm.
And so they not only have expertise in the area of business licensing, but they have expertise in the election law category as well.
So is this page 11 that we're speaking of David, does this include, the elections and everything too?
This is
Okay,
separate.
perfect,
We'll
okay,
come up to that.
okay.
Good
But
point.
we're saying that they're cross-trained for,
Cross-trained,
okay.
yes.
I wanna talk about that, so when we get there, if you'll let me know.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Any other questions on page 11 or 12, depending on what book you have? Okay, moving along then, we're gonna go to page 12, 13, which is the Board of Review section. Any questions here on Board of Review? Okay, then moving along, we're gonna go to page 19/20, and this is where you have the elections section, Councilwoman Galloway. So when you look at page 19/or 20, depending on what book you have, this is the election division. We appropriate for 2 elections here. Any questions here on page 19/20, depending on your book?
I have a question.
Monica?
So, Inez, how many people do you have that are permanently assigned for the day-to-day operation in the city clerks as it relates to elections?
I have 2.5 people in the election division. I have 2 full-time people as well as a half-time person. In addition to that, Jennifer, who's sitting here next to me, is assigned to the licensing division, but she's also cross-trained to assist with elections as well because she did start out in the election division. So with that half-time person coupled with her assistance, that gives us, right now, 3 people that we need. Now, normally when the city is back to normal, okay, let's say when we're fully, when we have money, we normally have 4 people in each division, okay? But because the city did not have money, then of course it's been, cut to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But, we've been able to, continue to operate as we're doing.
And the reason why I was asking.
And I should mention this also, is that we do have part-time people that come in during the election cycle that have been with us for years and years that we have trained as it relates to election law and election regulations. And so whenever there's an election of any kind, we bring those people back in. And they're paid at an hourly rate.
Okay. And the reason why I was asking is because it seems like the clerk's office has a huge amount of responsibility, and not just responsibility, but the neglect or failure in that department can have a huge impact on other areas, right? And so with that, I was just wondering, and I this is only, my 4th year on the council, and I realize that the clerk is appointed by the council, but I really want to understand how to make sure that that area is where it needs to be. And the reason why I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they were saying something, I got a call from one of my constituents actually, that was saying that there was an issue with rental inspections, and that the issue could have been associated with something that wasn't posted timely. And I don't know if that is something that your area handles too.
It does not fall up under our jurisdiction.
Okay.
I think it's important for the council.
And I just want to understand, because it seems like there's a miscommunication of information.
Let me just say this.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need additional help? Yes.
Okay.
Okay. However, we do understand what's happening with the money, and we're
Mhm.
trying to accommodate it until such time that you all can accommodate us.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Having said that, the clerk's office serves as kind of like, I would call it the clearinghouse for the entire city,
Right.
as it relates to calls that come in, as it relates to people that come to visit, because they come to the clerk's office when they don't know where else to go.
Right.
But I can say this about my staff, that in spite of everything else that's going on, my staff are treating these people in a courteous way, directing them to where they need to go, whether it's by telephone or whether it's by over the counter.
Okay.
I should indicate that, you know, sometimes I've been here to 12 o'clock at night, okay? Phone calls still come in 12 o'clock at night.
Right.
Because people, no matter where, will call the clerk's office for help because they don't know where else to call.
Right.
But again, we try to direct them to the correct department.
And David, is the clerk's office an area that there's those transfer out based on other departments?
No, the clerk's department is within the general fund, and it is funded by general fund taxes, your property taxes, basically. It may have a very small piece of indirect costs. I'd be surprised. There's a small piece of indirect, so water sewer would pick up a very, very small piece of the clerk's operation. But as far as elections go, elections is not part of it. It's 100% funded by the general purpose tax levy.
And if you don't mind, if I go back to building and inspections that they handle, does that have a transfer out from?
Building inspections?
Well, the, what licensing, I'm sorry, licensing and permits. Do they have like a transfer out, a piece that comes from?
No. Okay, so the clerk's office, non-election is included in the indirect cost allocation. So a small piece of the clerk's office is in the indirect, as we stated earlier. So your question on the licensing bureau, if you look on page, going back to page,
I'm sorry.
it's all right, page 11, 12. So when you look at the licensing and clerk section, you'll see the permits that, if you go on page 11/12, depending on which book you're in, the first $100,000 is revenue. Okay, do you see that there right in the middle of the page? Business license and permit fees?
95 and then 100,000.
That is correct. Okay, so that's revenue coming in.
Okay.
Okay, and then we have the cable TV franchise fees, which supports all general fund operation.
Okay.
Okay, but then at the end of the day, you have the expenses there. So what I would say is that the expenses that are highlighted in the clerk license and permit, less the business license and permit fees that come in, would then, the balance difference would then be funded by general fund property taxes. Okay?
Vicki?
Yes, I have a question on page 20 in my book, where it talks about the city clerk election division election workers. It looks like that information is duplicated twice. The amounts are the same, the wording is the same. I don't know if that's some type of mistake, or maybe you can explain to me why it would be repeated twice.
I've been told that this is duplicated. So the balance, the department has been highlighted to you twice, yes. So you would scratch out the second election worker section.
Yeah, and I noticed some misspelled words there too. I don't know who does that, but.
Yeah, that's a good catch, thank you very much, we'll take that out.
Okay, but so one part of that is an extra duplication and we can just cross it out.
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
and a question I have for Inez, are all the positions filled in the clerk's office and the election division, or are there any vacancies that still?
There are no vacancies.
Okay. And this is the same number from as of last year, or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
There's one thing though that if I could point out to the council, you'll note the $100,000 for election equipment. That's the result of a new election law whereby the state of Michigan received a federal grant to use statewide to purchase election equipment statewide. And so, of course, Flint fell into the category of an urban area, and the majority of our equipment will be purchased with that particular federal grant that's been funded by the state. But we needed an additional $100,000 to purchase some additional equipment in order to do the absentee ballot counting board, as well as some of the other new equipment. And that's why you see the $100,000 category here, okay? And we've been working on this now with the state as well as the county for about a year. In fact, we served on the county board that selected the equipment that's going to be used countywide. And so probably for the upcoming November election, you're going to see new election equipment here in the city of Flint as well as Genesee County. Okay? In accordance with state law. Again, we have to follow what the state law dictates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Ms. Brown, I know your workload is horrific,
Yes, ma'am.
and everybody should know that. When was the last time the city clerk's office had a deputy clerk?
Since 2002.
That's quite a while ago.
Yes, ma'am.
Things have gotten a little more hectic since then, right? In the event you had a deputy clerk, how many hours would that deputy clerk work?
Probably not quite as many hours as I work, but probably close to it. Due to the nature of the work.
Well, my wish list for you is to have a deputy clerk. And Mr. Sabuda,
Yes, ma'am.
we must find money for a deputy clerk. That's a must. It's been much too long. And our clerk has given her 101%. So that's the wish list for me and my colleagues, I do believe. I don't know if they've spoken up on it, but that's the wish list. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, yeah, just one quick thing. Madam Clerk, in talking with you basically daily and going down for a constituency calling on this and that, and I know things are tight. Trust me, I know, I see. But I want to commend your staff and you for always being professional and doing things decently and in order. And I've been in there when it's been smooth sailing, and I've been in there when it's been pretty hectic. And the ladies there keep a very professional form with everybody. Doesn't make a difference, not because I'm there. Sometimes they don't even know I'm there. And I watch them. And they conduct themselves very, very professional. And I know it's tight. Where there should be 4 to 6 people, there's only 2 and sometimes 3 people. But they conduct themselves. When they even answer the phone. Now, I can't say that because I don't answer my phone with a smile all the time. But every time I'm down there, that's what they're doing. And so I appreciate you and your staff and the training that you've given to them and they're giving to others. And certainly we will do all we can because the people who make sure that pay our salaries, if you treat them right, then it's a world of difference. Now, I can't go into every department and say that, but the clerk's office I can. Because I do have some issues of customer service in other departments. But the clerk office is not that way. And I appreciate you in the firmness that you stand on and what you believe in. And customer service is always first. And so my hat goes off to you in your department. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and I will certainly convey that compliment to the remaining of the staff.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad that Jennifer was here to hear it. So.
Scott, I have a question. What would be the salary to fund the deputy clerk?
It range, you correct me if I'm wrong, it'd take a while to fill the position, it'd probably range somewhere between 50 and 75,000, and then you gotta add.
In other words, she'd be making more than the clerk.
So we'd have to figure out the fringe benefit rate and, the projected time frame for that position to be filled along with an entry level salary and then, increases. So
And the reason why I ask is, this is my first go round, but it doesn't seem like that's just a position based on need, but I think that in any leadership role, there needs to be someone that is being groomed for worst case scenario, and so the reason I don't want that to be a wish list. I wish Inez all the best health in the world. Yet the reality is, whenever you are in a leadership role, there should be someone in the wings that is being groomed for anything that may happen. And I hope that that is something that is being looked at in the clerk's office. Inez, you do a great job. Yet the pressures that are on you are horrific. At my age, and I'm younger, being in here till midnight would be more than I would, and I don't want to play, but it would be way more than I would be able to handle. Especially someone that may have other responsibilities outside of here, whether it's children, whether it's parents. And so I just think that anytime we're in leadership, we need to be forward thinking, and we should always be looking at seeing who will be my successor in the event that something finds me not able to continue in this process. So I don't want the deputy clerk to be like a wish list. I want to know, is there something that can really be done to fund that position? And so, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. To piggyback on Councilwoman Galloway, even if Ms. Inez had a deputy clerk, and in worst case scenario, she had to get sick or she just retired, that doesn't mean that deputy clerk would be the clerk, because the clerk has to be hired by the Flint City Council.
No question, but what it does mean is that there's someone that is there daily absorbing knowledge and information that at least until that decision is made, right?
That works with her. They can handle that.
Okay.
Until we vote and
Yeah,
get one.
if I could indicate this to I almost called you Congresswoman. I'm sorry, I forgot I'm not in DC, I'm in Flint. Okay, I apologize. As the clerk, since I've been here for about 20 years, okay, each and every person in my department has been trained to do a variety of different things. So if I died today, okay, the knowledge in that department would still be able to continue because of all the cross-training that I've been able to do. Now, previous clerks, and I'm just going to say this about previous clerks didn't do that. But I believe in very strongly the sharing of information, the sharing of knowledge, the sharing of experience. And so if I keeled over today, that department would still be able to operate in a collaborative way because of the knowledge that Jennifer has, because of the knowledge that each and every one of those girls will have. But having said all of that, to hire a deputy clerk, that person would have to have a great deal of knowledge and experience as it relates to the election process. And that is not easy to do. It's not easy to come by. So it's not like just kind of a regular type of job. It requires a lot of expertise and some other things I described to be private.
And please don't misunderstand me if
And
I
I'm not
can.
offended by what you're saying
No,
at all.
please don't misunderstand me. The reality is we're sitting here talking about a department that has 2.5 people. And so, do I think that they could effectively run?
It's not a
right?
department, it's a section.
Right, but I'm just, please, don't misunderstand me. I'm saying to cause a department to rise, we know that they will, but the reality is if they're already doing a lot more and being commended for doing as much as they're doing with very little, to be able to or have to raise to that level would still be a little bit overwhelming. And so I don't mean any harm. I just thought I'd put that out. If
Right.
since Councilwoman Poplar said wish list, I wanted to know how much the item on the wish list cost, and I didn't know what that was.
But I need to go back and just indicate that even though there are 2.5 physical people there,
Jennifer and others, wherever there's a gap or a problem in terms of the workload, everybody, even in licensing, has been the people in licensing started out in elections. They were then elevated to licensing. So they're all cross-trained. Okay? And I'm not trying to knock myself out of additional staff. I'm just saying that because of what we've had to go through since 2002, these are the kind of things that we've done in order to bring our staff up to where it should be. Okay. You know, I'm down in the council office too. I mean, we're going to that in performance too. Right. But is the work being done? Yes. Is as much being done as I'd like to see? No. But the talent is there, the expertise is there, and I think the commitment on the part of the staff is there.
Anything else? I got one question, Ms. Brown.
Yes.
The 100,000 to replace the existing voting equipment. What do we do with the old equipment? Is it something that has a value that can be sold, auctioned?
No,
Does it go back to the state? What do we do with that?
They're working on that right now, but we will not get any money from it.
We bought it.
Well, it's kind of, we didn't buy it, the state bought it, remember?
Okay.
Back in 2000, I think it was 2003. Right.
2002, 2003.
Right. And so there's some things going on behind the scenes whereby they will pick that equipment up, and if there's any value to it, then we would.
So that belongs to the state.
Right.
Okay.
Probably to the state or to the county or whomever. Because if you recall, the original contract or the initial purchase was through the county.
Yes.
And that kind of thing. But again, the 100,000 is only to get the additional equipment that we feel that we need in case, let's say a machine went down over here or over there, where else would we find it if we didn't have it ourselves? Okay. Coupled with that, because we have more absentee ballots than anyone else in the county. Sometimes during a presidential, we might have 12,000. Then what we're doing is purchasing the accelerated counter as opposed to feeding them through the machine. And I just felt that council needs to know that that's what that money is being used for.
Anything else for Ms. Brown?
We have one more page,
Yep.
Mr. Chair, we have one more page. If there's no more questions on 19 or 20,
Nope.
then we should go to page 6/7 in your books. There you have the Charter Commission. Page 6/7 in your books, depending on what book you have. As you can see, 17-18, we're looking at $7,280, and then 18-19, the process would be over. Any questions here on page 6/7? Okay, moving along then. I would then invite up the.
Thank you very much, Ines.
Thank you.
There's something I wanted to mention about the city council budget though.
Oh,
You want to do the council now? We can do the council now.
yeah, let's do the council one, Ms. Brown.
Okay, so let's do page 2. Page 2 or page 3, depending on, page 2 or page 3, depending on which book you have. And 3/4, depending on which book you have, is the council budget.
All right.
Well, thank you, I realized, okay. Any questions here on page 2, 2/3 or 3/4? This is the council's budget.
Just a couple of questions for me on the council budget. I'm looking for it. I didn't highlight it when I seen it the other day. Last year, Dave, we allocated some funding for employee health care, and I see that that's been reallocated again this year. Is that correct?
Employer health care. Yes, it is.
And that we did that last year.
That's there, yes.
So we just carried that same amount over
Yep.
for the next year.
Yep.
There's no increased premiums for. Is that funding covered?
Yeah, I covered 4, the same 4.
Okay.
And then you have 3 full-time employees that get it too. So that's
Okay.
all reflected in your budget.
All right. Thank you.
Got it. Any other,
Any
Mr.
other-
Chairman,
Ms.
if
Brown?
I could pose a question to Mr. Sabuto, this may just be a typographical error, but in our original submission, in the council budget, we included for professional dues, $20,000 for the Michigan Municipal League membership, which would be for the entire city, not just council.
and, it's under, 101-101-100-730. And we found that in the actual record here, it wasn't included. It's out, it's right here. Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, you've got it. You should take a look at your, 101-100-730.000. There's 20 grand to set up. Well, this is the final right here. This is the final. Your book is the final. Okay. All right, it's there.
Yep, sure.
Okay, well, just as a matter of record, when we put the budget together,
Yep.
initially, the 20,000 was based upon the payment from the previous year. In the interim, we received a letter from the Michigan Municipal League, and I believe the amount is going to be about 23,000. Okay, so we'll have to probably later on move some money around
What we
to
have,
add the 3,000. And again, it's not just for the council, it's for everybody. No question. Right. You're fine, you're paying the dues for that organization, sure. Right. Mr. Sheriff, there's no other questions on 2/3?
I have some questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I just wanna double check that where it says the film council meetings, is that taking care of what Paul does? Okay, I just wanna make sure that that's what that meant.
Yes.
And also staff, we have 3,
Yes.
is that correct? My concern is, I don't know how it's been before, but I see all the work that staff does and all the overtime and all the research and last minute, assignments that have to happen because of what we do here. We, have to almost do our own type of gathering of information, printing of information, making sure everybody has an understanding of it. And this is all on a staff of 3. I just feel that we are short. We at least need 1 or 2. I guess we'll be lucky if we could even get 1. But I feel sorry for them because of all the hours that they put in. And then when one of them gets sick, and there's been a couple times where 2 of them have been sick, and things just kind of stop, and yet we have deadlines we're still missing. I hope that as we look at this, we find a way to bring in additional help. I know just by being around Kerry and him doing all the hours and the phone calls, I mean, he can keep these girls hopping because of the information that we need within a short period of time. Just even the research that had to be put into the moratorium, kind of things had to be kind of held by trying to gather everything together, because we have to become our own almost independent operation with
Well,
the way things.
if I could interrupt you, technically you all are independent, okay? Because, just so that you'll know, if you look in the charter, okay, the girls are an extension of the clerk, okay, basically. And I do assist them with the research also. You just don't see me doing it, but I do.
Oh, I know.
But a part of their responsibility, the majority of their responsibility is really record keeping and that kind of thing. And we can have private discussion about this later in terms of real responsibility. But having said that, I think I indicated earlier in my remarks that I wanted to have the council staff go back to the original 4. And so that is in the plan for whenever we get some additional money in the city.
Fantastic.
But now, one other thing I should mention, and I don't know if Mr. Kincaid remembers this or not, but we put together a proposal some years ago to hire a person for the council, okay? A person who would be a research and legislative specialist. In fact, I have put together the job description based upon previous things that I've seen at the Washington Mountain. And the salary that we were proposing was not, off the chart or anything like that. But I think it would be the kind of, what we put together would be the kind of thing that you all are referring to in terms of assisting you all in a more prompt fashion with some of the problems that you're, experiencing now, whereby we're having to drop what we're doing to, engage in that kind of research and so forth. All right, but we're working behind the scenes, doing what we have to do to research, to ensure that you all are kept up to date on everything. But again, I think at some point, consideration needs to be given to that specialist, the professional research specialist that I mentioned earlier, that would be hired for counsel.
Yeah, and I want to repeat the same thing that everyone has been saying. The staff for both the city clerk's office, licensing division, and the city council office, they're amazing. I mean, they're dedicated. They don't complain about when they have to do something. They're just right in there. And I'm surprised because I even get things during the weekend. I think, what, are they working? Or, and I know they have so many deadlines, but I think part of that is also with your leadership. Because I know how it is when you have employees, if they truly believe in what they're doing, they're trained right, and they believe in the administration of what they do, then that's when they become dedicated and committed to the job. So I want to say thank you, Inez. Excellent job, very noticeable, and again, thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Brown? Thank you very much, Inez.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chair, if we could turn to page 13 or 14, depending on your book. 13 or 14, depending on your book. We're going to head into the Treasury Department. Customer Service Treasury, yes. Okay,
Before we get started, Dave,
Sure.
real quick. Who is the treasurer for the city of Flint now?
right now we're utilizing a contractor, Mr. Al Mooney.
I'm just asking.
Mr. Al Mooney, he's a contractor.
Okay.
He's been fully funded by the state of Michigan.
He's employed by the state of Michigan.
No. You've approved his contract. The contract, I don't think Mr. Mooney is the treasurer. He has a contract that has gone through the process. He's been funded almost 100% or 100% by the state of Michigan, and he works for me on a daily basis. He works basically 3 or 4 days a week, depending on how we need him.
Are we looking to find a permanent treasurer?
Yes, we have. We've been working very hard to come up with a permanent replacement and to fill that slot.
Have we looked internally?
We've looked internally and externally.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a quick question, Mr. Chair. The treasurer, is that just an appointment, or does that come through council?
My understanding is that does not come through council. That
Okay.
position does not come through council.
Thank you.
That's my understanding.
It's a classified service position. Once they're hired, they're like the assessor. They don't serve at the pleasure of the mayor. They do not serve at the pleasure of the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Good questions. Okay, on page 13, 14, you'll have the treasury operations section of the general fund budget. Again, another department within the budget. Those accounts at the top, 539.100, 607.000, 671, 600, 671, 800, and 694,000 are revenue account numbers. Okay, then we get into the salaries, starting with for 17-18, $80,784. And then for 18-19, it's 81,581. On this page, you're going to see the wages and fringes for the treasury operations staff. You're also going to see postage, dues, supplies, printing and publishing, rentals. Any questions here on page 13, 14?
How many people are in the treasury operations?
Is that Monica?
The salary, what does it cover? Does it cover?
How many positions? You're looking for how many positions in total? How many do we have 20.
So, that are,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Divided between 45, 45, and 10. 10% is the treasurer, 45, 45 is water.
we're coming up to those sections.
So the area that we're on right now.
Yep.
Is that the people downstairs who take the payments?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, is how's that process going, right? I know that, we're saying that our payments are down. And I'm gonna share an example. One time I decided to pay by check, and it took about 3 weeks for the check payment to be processed. It was downstairs wherever the checks are kept. And because it was taking so long, I wondered what the process was. And I understood that that was part of the reason why you guys, closed at a certain amount of early in the day so that those things could be processed. And I was just wondering, how has that process been going now that we're where we are? And the reason why I say that is because I appreciate the ladies that work there. But I personally, even maybe last month, came to make a payment, and they weren't rude to me or anything, but some of the conversations that are going on among the customer service reps it's just inappropriate. It's unacceptable. There's not that direct attention, and based on where we are with the low amount of people that are paying their bills, some of the wait time in there, and I timed it myself, from the time I got in there, it was 28 minutes for me to go up and make a payment because there was one window open. So much so that I walked around, and I don't know if it's Kathy, is that her name, that sits in the back behind those windows? I went to the back to say, hey, Kathy, how you doing? I don't know if everybody's at lunch or on a break, but there's like 8 people out here, and there's one window open. And so I say that to say that in the frustration of people that have to pay for water that they don't deem that they should have to pay for, and the fact that our collection rate is so low that then we find ourselves in situations where you go in to pay your water bill and the wait is unacceptably long. And I was just wondering, was that due to staffing, or what is the plan around that operation?
Please speak in the microphone, please.
Right now I am short staffed. We are in the process of getting some more personnel in our office. We had some people who were promoted and a couple retirees, so we are in the process of that. I mean, like today, I'm in that same situation where I don't have enough to, cover my phones. I had people call in sick today.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's constantly, but it's, now that it's been lifted that we can start hiring people,
Mm-hmm.
we've gone through the testing process,
Mm-hmm.
and we are, I'm pushing personnel every day, and, they're working hard with me, and, hopefully I got one filled, and hope they'll get 2 more filled next week.
And how many positions do you have available that need to be filled?
3, and then I have another person that's going to retire June 30th, so then I'll have another one.
Cool. Okay.
And we're in the process of getting those filled right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
one quick thing, something like that. I don't know what privilege you've given Ms. Galloway. It took 3 weeks for me to cash her check. I wouldn't pay my bill. It was the next day. So somebody put mine right in.
No, it was
No,
part of the mailing process.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But I'm just saying, I have just one issue. One issue. Not with you, I'm not going to do a super
Yes, you do.
fantastic
Yes,
job.
you do.
Super fantastic.
Yes, you do.
And I know you're doing what you can with the staff. But since we're at piggyback, that's a little bit Ms. Galloway said. Because we have a community who feels already that they shouldn't have to pay for this bad water, if the clerk could be more tender, if that receptionist could be just speak of, how you're doing this morning, this afternoon, and if they have conversations, I'm not saying they can't talk, but I find it very hard to be talking with one another when there's 10 people waiting. And so, if you can just tell them, let's take care of our customers first, in our downtime, if they want to talk about whatever, that's fine. But when I walk down there sometimes to pay bills myself, I'm finding myself saying, my God, no wonder the people are upset. And some have left off and said, I'm not paying. No, I'm going. I don't know if they come back later. I don't know if they come back the next day. But at that point, they were angry and upset because they were waiting. And it seems to be nobody, you don't want to take my money because the two windows are running the conversation. And so if you just can tell me, because my hat goes off to you, you're doing a fantastic job. I thank you for all you do. And I thank them for what they do. But at this time, we just have to be more productive in how we do things. And at the low points, because I've been down there sometimes nobody was there. That would be the time the conversations would, happen.
Well, just so you understand, I know that one of the girls at the front counter right now is more relatively new than the other one. And a lot of times when there is conversations going on, they're assisting her.
Okay.
Because she's, has come up to a situation that she hasn't, that hasn't occurred before.
Okay.
That's, a lot of times that is the conversation. Because I know one of our senior clerks sits right behind
Mm-hmm.
the front clerk,
Mhm.
and she goes up there to assist them.
Okay.
When, when the customer, is getting agitated or whatever. But
Okay.
a
Thank
lot
you.
of that does occur.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
So let me just,
Well, I just wanted to say that, one, I understand those conversations, and those are not the conversations that I'm talking about. But you have a young lady, and I don't know if I'm remembering her name or not. Is it Elizabeth or she's part-time. And all I can tell you, and I always write her name down and I never keep my paper, but all I can tell you is every single time I have called on the phone, that woman is consistently kind. She is consistently attentive. And I always end the call with saying, thank you. It's always pleasant. And I am so sad that I can't remember her name, but I know that it seems like she said that she works part-time, and that's all she wants to work is part-time. So you know who I'm talking about?
Her name is Anna.
Anna, yes. So I'm just, not that but I'm talking about consistently. I could be struggling with something, I probably shouldn't, but sometimes I do. And she is constantly, and I called for an elderly lady who was saying, Monica, Councilwoman Galloway, this phone system does not work for elderly people like me. It's too fast. I can't get it. I called Anna, and she said, oh, Councilwoman Galloway, there's a number that they can call. They probably don't know that, and they'll get right to it. I'm like, you're on it. So thank her. Thank you. She is awesome. Thank you.
let me just ask this before we get too deep into this. You're talking about vacant positions and unfilled positions that you currently have in some of the right? Tell me what the staffing level should be based on the workload in that department, not the number of people that have been there for the last year or 2 years, but now that we're getting to a point where we really need to look at, customer service, number one, 2, workload, 3, people getting burned out because of their job and dealing with people that aren't happy because of the high water bills or their taxes or whatever. What is the ideal number that department needs? Not the vacant positions that are currently there, but you're down. When Mike Brown came in here, he cut the hell out of that department. He gutted that department. He was the worst person that the city's ever had in the 30 years that I've been here. So tell me, where do we need to start to look at increasing the number of personnel, not just the vacant positions? What do we need? Are we down supervisor? Are we down, entry-level clerks? Are we down mid-level clerks? I don't know the range and the scale of the work that they do, but I can tell you, every time I go down there, including you, Amanda, you guys are overwhelmed. And there's a lot of departments like that. But if we're going to start dealing with customer service and starting to build a relationship with the community again, number that you have funded right now is what?
I have like 6 full-time clerks and 5 senior clerks and then 5 temps.
So you got,
Ideally, I would like to
you
have,
got 6
yes,
full-time clerks,
yes.
you got 5 part-time clerks,
No.
or 5
Yeah, yes,
supervisors.
5 part-time, temporary clerks, and then 5 senior clerks.
And 5 senior.
Ideally, I would like to have at least 9 full-time clerks. That would, because so many times, like today, I'm pulling the senior clerks from doing billing to help answer phones. Because I have only part-time people, and that was one of the things that was detrimental to us when we opened at 4 o'clock on Wednesdays and Thursdays. That was our kind of our catch-up time, and I don't have, my temps can only cover certain times, and that's why I'm short usually on Wednesdays and Thursdays. I shuffle everybody around trying to have coverage. So I would ideally like to
You
have.
don't want to reduce your part-time though. You don't want to take 3
If I
of
could
your
have
part.
more full-time people, that would be much better. And a
Do
treasurer.
you still need the number of part-time people? I mean, let me just say this. You just said there's ideally 9 personnel, 9 clerks,
Full-time.
full-time. You've got 5 part-time. Part-time are 28 hours, 29 hours a week or less, right? Right?
Mrs. Sabuna, will you let her talk, please? Yeah, thank you.
I'm trying to figure out, because, look, customer service is number one. I mean, if you go to a store and you don't get good customer service, you don't go back. Unfortunately, here, you don't have a choice. You know, you have to come back. You have to pay your taxes, you have to pay your water bill, you have to come down here to get your water turned on, you have to come down here to fill up forms, get your water turned off. You know, we need to make sure that we're adequately full-time staff, to meet the demand and the need for the community. And so, if you only have 6, and you need 9, and if we took 5 of part-time and moved them to full-time, that only leaves you 2 part-time. Is that adequate or no?
If I have the 9 full-time, that would be great, because like I said, with the part-time, it just doesn't cover all the bases. If I had, 4 people there 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, to cover the phones, and I had my 5 people at the front counter Monday through Friday, that'd be great.
See, because the cost of taking a part-time person and making them full-time is less than us having to go out and hire an additional full-time person and still keep 5 part-time. So you're saying that it would be helpful for that department to take and reduce the number of part-time from 5 to 2 and increase the number of full-time from 6 to 9. That's what you're saying would help start to improve service in your area.
We're lucky we got the part-time people back.
So Dave, we need to figure out what the dollar cost is going to be to move those individuals from part-time to full-time. I could put a number in there, but we're gonna work together in doing that. So we need to take and look at making those 5 part-time, 3 of them become full-time. I'm not saying that it's the 5, the 3 out of the 5. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you have to go out and recruit or whatever you have to do for full-time people, I'm not telling you how to run your department. I'm just trying to put the dollars where they need to be to accomplish what we need. So if we're looking at 9 full-time people, we're going to reduce the part-time from 5 to 2. And we're going to look at increasing the funding for full-time from 6 to 9. Right? Now, we go up to the department page.
What is this expected cost for senior?
It's the same process, the bill, they create the bills, they go through the reports to find, all the anomalies and things like that. So they're the ones that I the ones that are working the reports to get the bills out to the customer.
And how many do you have, Mr. Chair, if I may, how many do you have of
So I
senior
have
clerks?
5 that are budgeted, right now there's 2 vacant, and that's what they're testing for today.
And I'm not looking for the senior clerks right now, as long as those positions get filled.
Right.
We don't
That's
need
what
to
they're working
increase
with.
them. I mean, I'm looking at, you know,
The billing is very important, that's why, I
understand that.
fully,
That's it.
But I think if we have those positions filled, Amanda, that we will be able to accomplish that work.
exactly, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
anything else on page 13 or 14, depending on your book? Okay, moving along then to page 14 or 15, what you're gonna see here is the income tax services area, the water collection area. So what ends up happening here is when you see customer services, water collection, this again are the staffers that are in the treasury area, but this is paid for by the water fund. Okay, and then when you go to page 15 and 16, you're gonna see customer services, sewer collection, and then you're gonna see delinquent collections. Where we are is, so that section for customer service sewer collection is paid for by the sewer department, and then you have your delinquent collection area. Now on collections, we're short staffed there, but we're filling those vacancies now, correct?
Correct, yes, they're waiting for that.
So we're not contracting that out anymore, is that correct?
No, we are.
Yes, that's income tax, that's contract now.
The income tax is contracted.
Yeah.
But all the other, collection is done in-house, other than income tax.
At the end of the day, I just want to stress, this is a very important section in the city, and we've tried very hard to get these positions filled throughout the year, so.
I'm just trying to help you, Dave.
No, I get it.
This is our revenue.
That's right. That's right. And this is where you need to work, and this is where you don't want to mess around. You want to make sure that you get your revenues and you bring them in, and you're able to pay for service.
This is where you and I are on the same page. You and I and Dawn are on the same page. This is our
Anybody can
revenue.
cut.
We've got to do everything we can to
Bring it in.
be customer friendly and to collect as much revenue as we can.
You got it.
And, you know, if we have to make cuts in some other areas, we need to shore up the areas where we need to collect our revenue.
You got it. Okay. Any other questions here on page 14/15 or page 15/16? Okay. That would complete the treasury section. And then I would ask you to turn to page 17/18 and we'll talk about assessing.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. I want to tell you, you guys do a great
You
job.
do a great job.
You really do. I mean, honestly.
Hey, this Stacy Bassey, our level 4 assessor, is here.
Some council people haven't met Kathy.
Stacy.
I'm sorry.
No, we brought her to the council meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I wasn't there.
Page 17. There you go. Okay, we're looking to spend $1.341 million net in this department. Again, this is a revenue department. I worked very hard getting this position filled, and I think we came up with a 5-star player here. So with that, I'll ask the council if they have any questions here on page 17/18.
Thank you for coming to the city. You left a good community, though. I have a good relationship with my neighboring partner, but I am very pleased that you're here, and I hope things are working out well for you. Good. I don't have any questions.
I don't have any.
Questions? Do you have any concerns within your department that we need to look at? No?
We just want to get we want to get the vacancies filled. There are 2 vacancies that are out there right now that we need to get filled, and we're working with human resources. to
Well, we're
get
gonna have human resources here this afternoon.
I know.
You know, Charlie's gonna be in the hot seat today. He is. I mean, every department has vacancies, David, and there's no reason that it should take as long as it does to get these positions filled.
Okay. No, I got it. So now, Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for what you're doing. And everybody in your department.
Okay, what I'd like to do next is go to, the IT section, page 130 in your book. 130? Yes, under the blue tab called Internal Service Funds.
Okay.
IT, come on up, guys.
Where's IT?
Okay, so if you start off on page 1, in my book it's 130. It may be 132 in your books. It's either 130 or 132.
What section is that?
132.
Okay, it would be the blue, Internal Service Fund.
Blue.
Go right ahead, you can use that, Candace.
Is that one?
Yes, absolutely, that's what it's there for. Page 1, I believe it's 130. Okay. Why don't you put that in between you and Mr. King here. Okay, take your time. Okay, so in the upper left-hand corner, you should see the 636 Information Service Fund. Now, how this fund gets funded are all the operating funds, based upon a formula, contribute dollars into this fund to pay for the goods and services and contractors that come out of this fund. So the Information Service Fund services each and every department in the city, and each and every department, based upon a formula, contributes back in order to fund this section. Additionally, we had a contractor in this section, and I don't know if you recall this or not, running the section. The contractor is now not part of the city operation. Mr. Keene is the interim director, and we'll start off. What page do you have, Councilman?
I have, in my book, it is 132.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so either on page 130 or page 132, you'll see you'll see the interfund coming in for $2.975 million, and then the $3.124 million. That's the revenues coming in to fund this section. Then you're going to see the salaries and fringe benefits and professional services. And what we tried to do here is give you all the projects that Mr. Keene's working on. Any questions here on page 130, 132?
I do have a question. So, Mr. Keene, is it?
Yes.
So you're the interim director?
Correct.
And you have been with the city, is that
Yes.
right?
19 years.
19 years. How many people are in the IT department?
We have myself, Candace, we have 3 technicians, and we have a part-time contractor doing police communication support.
Police communication.
Yeah, he retired from here and come back.
Okay, and so, David, has the staffing changed since, what was his name that had the professional service contract?
Mr. Knifick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to the best of my knowledge, no, it has not changed. Aside from Mr. Knifick leaving and taking his contract people with him, the staff has not changed.
So are you guys able to keep up with everything? Because I'm just wondering, wouldn't we lose help if he's gone with the people that he's taken with him? And how are we able to keep up if the staffing hasn't changed?
Yes, we have, we're using contractors for some of it, like the first one there, general network support. We've had to go out and use outside help for some of these things.
But it's in the works. We're working on having more people hired. We're working with HR right now to fill in the needs, so.
Yeah, we have a couple, we had Mr. Knifick was the administrator. Then we had a full-time person acting as the systems administrator.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a part-timer with the networking. And that's kind of where the network, we're still using networking through outsourcing. The systems admin could be filled internally by an individual we have down there. And we just need to fill, I was the network administrator before I became interim director as well.
Mm-hmm.
Doing both of those right now.
Okay, but you've been doing that now for how long?
Officially it was last September.
Last September, so we're coming up on a year pretty quick. And so, are you guys budgeted to cover the needs that you have?
Using the additional help, outside help, yes.
No, I mean, within this budget, does it make room for the positions you are in the process of hiring?
We have the internal position would go up a few pay levels. And then there was going to be a backfill his position as an IT specialist,
Mhm.
and it is budgeted for, yes.
Oh, it is, okay. Cause it's important what you guys do, in case nobody tells you that, I thought I'd tell you that.
Here
Thank you.
sometimes.
Scott, I have a question.
Yes, Vicki?
Yeah, and I also have questions about the staffing, especially since Mr. Kniffik has left. It seems like we're starting to see more problems pop up on the computer saying, do not use, they have to either be rebooted or something has to be checked out, or is it the BSA or whatever isn't operating or shut down a certain program. Is that due to we don't have enough people to troubleshoot the system? Do we need a certain type of people to also be on staff? Or is this a system set up to make sure to prevent hacking?
You're talking about like the emails that go out saying BSA is coming down, we have to reboot the server, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's just issues, in that case, that's just issues with the BSA software. It's acting up, we have to reboot the server. I don't think it has anything to do with personnel.
Okay, good. 'Cause there's other messages too. I think either the internet's not working or.
Again, that's the technology, the AT&T circuit or the Comcast circuit could be having issues. If you have Comcast at home, probably has to be rebooted sometimes. So that stuff does happen.
I just know, it just seemed like it's been more frequent than in the years before.
It could be, but it also could be maybe we weren't getting notified when stuff was going down then, and now we notify. Possibly, I don't know.
Okay, just check. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on page 130, 132?
I just have a question on capital expense for the department. Any major expenses for upgrades in either hardware or software that we're looking at for 2018 and 19?
We'd like to go with an enterprise Wi-Fi. We have an ancient phone system that needs to be updated.
Our phone system's pretty expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, that'll be expensive. That'll be an expensive project, yes. I think we have it in there for.
It's in there,
It's
1.4
in
million.
there.
It's in there. It's in there.
1 point something.
Oh, that's the cost, I'm sorry.
We're in the process of getting that ready for bid. We're in the process of getting that ready for bid.
For the new phone system?
Yes.
Page 134, 136, Mr. Chair. We'll get to that. When we get there, I'll point it out to you.
Okay, all right, I'll wait.
Okay.
I had it written down to ask that question.
Yep, no.
And can we, when we get there, I don't know if this is the right department, but, is there something we can do to look at the flip phones do you guys do that? What department, David, is that in? And the reason why I'm saying.
It's here, it's here.
It's here.
This is the right spot.
And the reason why I'm asking, right, is we are a municipality. You have no idea how difficult it is to get messages from our constituents that text us, that the text comes through weird because we're on a flip phone, and then to try and respond back to them, you have to hit the 3-4 times for the capitals, and then what is that?
We have smartphones all over the place. So if you guys are still on flip phones, then we'll upgrade them. Flip phone.
Nice for the two-way, that's what normally they're used for.
Yeah, we have use for the flip phones in the city, but for you,
Because I just want to say for the record,
We have availability for smartphones if you want.
no, Scott, then someone is not telling me, because I've been asking, and I finally, last year, told the office to put my personal cell phone as the contact. And so it's amazing, I'm listening to my colleagues, and there's been a lot of things that this year I'm learning on my last year that they are available where that was never, because I've been asking, when I got the flip phone in 13, I said, what? And so if that's available, no one told me because I've been using my own personal phone for 2 years now. And that's one thing, it's only because it just wasn't convenient to use those flip phones. So thanks, Scott. Yeah.
I never seen you with football.
Yeah, because it was not working. And so, but thank you for that. And so I will be getting with you because that's,
Can I just, Mr. Chairman, if we can just, cause I use my own phone. So that way I don't have any issues.
yeah, but this is governmental
I-
things, and
I
so
understand.
you know what I'm saying? I don't wanna
understand.
have to
And
use.
this is why I'm going to get with the chairperson, and me and him will talk later. And those council person desire a smartphone, we will put the request in, and there should be no issues, correct?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions on 130, 132? Okay, then I'm gonna, move on to 131, 133, Mr. Chair, if that's all right? Okay, and on page 131/133, you're gonna see the computer software purchases that we're planning to make for the upcoming year. Okay, any questions here on 131?
Just at one question, Mr. Chair, if I could, the updates to the software, we have what we call firewalls and all of that protection, and you guys are pretty comfortable with that. Do you feel that we have the best out there, or is there room for improvement, or what?
We have some pretty good devices out there. A couple years ago, we did get hacked. We implemented a couple services or hardware, and it's been working really well.
No problems.
The website had an issue last week, but all we had to do was block an IP address, and we were back up and running. So
Okay.
there's no way they.
So as long as you are comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Very much so.
All right. Okay, moving along, page 132, 134, what you're gonna find here is, the department's copying services and communication services, and on the communication services, these are our monthly charges to pay for service. You also see mileage reimbursement, you also see, the vehicle and equipment charges to the, fleet fund. Any questions here on page 132 or 134 on your book? Okay, moving along then, we're gonna go to 133, 135, repairs and maintenance and education and training in this department. Any questions here on 133 or 135? Okay, moving along. And this gets to your question here on page 134, 136. You can see the equipment purchases and of course depreciation, tuition reimbursement, 134, 136. Any questions here on page 134, 136?
So the software and you've got the funding in place for software and the phone system that you're comfortable with.
Correct. That's good.
Are there any other issues as far as keeping our systems up that need to be done that's not being funded at this time?
No. Yeah, I mean, just other positions with actual equipment and services, we're funded fine.
You're comfortable with that?
Comfortable, yes.
Any plans for replacement of computers in-house or anything?
Yes, I think we're gonna do about 70 a year, a refresh cycle of about 70 computers a year.
Okay.
We have around 400, so.
So in the next 4 years?
Yeah. And we'll have to up that eventually, because that'd take, 6 years, 5 years to recycle everything. So, but we're doing 70 this year.
Any other questions for Andy?
Okay, let's go to page 135, 137. Okay, so I want to point the council out to the last line, the ending fund balance. So we're projecting at the end of 16-17, $6.3 million in fund balance. 17-18, we're planning on chewing into that fund balance a little bit to get the equipment necessary to move forward. And then in 18-19, the same thing. So to fund this department, we're not raising the internal charges to help. We're using a little bit of fund balance to carry us through for the next 2 years.
This is the May 18th City
That
of
completes
Flint
IT.
budget
Mr. Chair.
hearings.
Okay, what will be
May
in the internal service fund like that?
18th, 2017.
Percentage of the number of employees base is calculated in that, is that correct?
Go ahead, Doctor.
Their budget's entirely based on employee count. So depending on the number of employees you have in your department, we're going to allocate that percentage to IT.
Right. So if the number of employees go down, their revenue goes down.
Correct.
But once the budget is in place, we do not go throughout the year and every time we do
You
something.
make adjustments.
No,
I understand that, you do it once a year.
Yep, once a year we go through at budget time and we determine what the cost allocation should be based on what their needs are, what they want their budget to be, and what we can afford. Like Dave said, this year or the next 2 years, we're gonna cut into fund balance because it's there. And we didn't wanna have to allocate more expenses to all the other departments and funds.
But if we increase the number of personnel in the city, in this budget, we go through and we do that. We then can go back and allocate based on that number before we adopt the budget.
We wouldn't change the indirect
Won't
cost
change
allocation. No,
Because it's
even
not
with
significant.
even with healthcare, the pension, those budgets are set when you approve the budget. So if we add an employee or lose an employee, it's based on, because like for MERS, we know what our payment's gonna be for the year regardless of if we add a few employees.
Okay.
So it's for that year, when we budget that number, we keep that number. The next year, if we have to adjust it up or down, that's like if say we didn't spend as much this year, then the next budget year, we could say, okay, we're gonna decrease it because there's money in fund balance. So you can adjust at that time.
So if we add somebody, we don't have to go through all the calculations to
No.
do this, okay?
No,
I just wanna make sure, I just wanna,
But however, know this, if, let's say the water department staffing went down dramatically for whatever reason, and general fund went up dramatically for whatever reason, I would expect to see a shift in the dollar value coming from water going down and general fund going up. I would expect.
if that would be just transferred within those two accounts.
Well, that's right.
Right, because the indirect cost would still be the same for
Yeah.
IT or.
Right, but know that that would happen, theoretically that would happen.
Okay. We're good.
Very good, thank you guys.
Thank you guys, thank you for what you do, we appreciate it, we really do. You guys are kinda down in the basement, out of sight, out of mind. I think you kinda like that in a way, don't you?
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have Mike Rule from
Yep.
Fleet, okay?
Good afternoon, Mike. Thanks for coming over, appreciate it.
We're gonna go to page 136/138 in your book. Okay? So you know what Mr. Chair, would you like to get started?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is Central Garage. Basically, when you look at page 136, 138, what you'll see there is charges for sales, interdepartmental sales. You'll see scrap sales, equipment sales, and when you look at that, that's what's funding this department. Again, it's an indirect cost charge based upon formula. Councilwoman Van Buren, you're good? You're good? You got the right spot there? Okay, good. I just saw the look at your face. I was like, okay, good. All right.
Mine's on page 136.
136, 138, depending on your book. Okay? Okay. Then you see the start of the wages and fringe benefits of the section. Any questions here on page 136, 138? Okay, moving along then. We're going to go to page 137, 139. You'll see in the fleet section, supplies, gas and oil, uniforms, copying services. You're looking at repairs and maintenance. Any questions here on page
This is the
137,
May 18, 2017 City of Flint budget
budget
hearing.
138 or 140. You see the balance of the expenditures. Looking at education and training, depreciation, vehicles. You can see the vehicles being purchased, interest, charges. Any question? And then, of course, when you look at the very ending of
I have a question real quick, Dave.
Yep.
In 977-500, in 2018, 2019, that number almost doubles to 3,415,000 from 1,824,000. Why such the increase in that year and not this year?
When we did the vehicle replacement plan, the 7-year plan, the idea was to replace approximately 11% of the vehicles each year for 7 years.
Yeah.
Next year's budget only covers about 7.35% of that, a little over 7%. The following year covers 11%. I believe this was done, part partially because we're an internal service fund, or mainly because we're an internal service fund, and the cost to the departments was under consideration. We lowered the cost to the departments, and as Dave will get to, we're going to pull from fund balance this year as well.
But Dave, a number of these departments have fund balance in them for the operation for vehicle. I mean, I can go to the water, sewer, 202, 203, they have fund balance. I mean, some of these pieces of equipment.
Now, what happens here is this, is those funds will pay the fleet, and then the fleet will then purchase that equipment and maintain that equipment. That's how that works. It's on a formula. So again, you have water, sewer, major local streets, general fund. They'll contribute to this fund, and then this fund will then pay for that equipment or that rolling stock that you need in order to run the city.
I understand, but,
Okay.
but those funds, if they contributed more in 2018, they would be able, and Mike would be able to go out and purchase equipment. I mean, this is just for me. I mean, I had to raise hell about the street pavement.
Well, again, once you start coming from other operating funds, then so for instance, if you start looking at the general fund, those resources are tight. You've got a delicate balance about providing service, and then also delivering funds for equipment. Okay, and then you have to remember in those other funds, you have extraordinary events that you have to. You got a fund balance policy that you got to be looking at also.
I understand.
Okay,
but that balance is being pushed out farther instead of, let me just ask Mike a couple questions real quick.
Yeah, sure.
How old are I call them 8-ton trucks, the plow trucks, the garbage, the trucks that we put salt in. I mean, I don't know what ton they are, but
Our newest ones are 2006.
2000 what?
6.
6. They're more than 10 years old.
Yes, Josh.
And how many of them we have? 6? No, wait. We have 8 of them, don't we?
We have
Sorry?
14 now total.
Okay. All right. Good.
4 of them are international.
Take it easy.
2001 model year. Those are on a schedule to be replaced. The next
The
2
4.
years. The internationals, yeah.
We can't provide service without the equipment.
Correct.
And fortunately last winter, we didn't have a huge snow event,
Right.
like a couple of years ago.
Yes.
I mean, a couple of years ago, Mike, you correct me if I'm wrong. I had a conversation with Howard Croft. We had 11 trucks, and by the 3rd day of the event, we were down to about 4. I mean, they were broken down. The salt spreaders weren't working. I mean, we haven't replaced any of that equipment. We repaired it. You can only repair stuff so long.
I would agree.
I mean, there's a lifetime cycle.
Well, that's why we're coming up with in 1819. That's why we're jumping the number up from 1.8 to 3.4 million dollars. That's why you're jumping it up.
So why aren't we reversing that and doing it in 17-18 instead of, in 18-19, 17-18 instead of 18-19?
Well, at this point in time, we're following the current plan that's been approved, and we're pushing. If you want to spend more dollars in 17-18 from 18-19, that's not a problem, as long as you stay within the $5.2 million that we're planning to spend. At the end of the day, what we're looking at.
So we took $1 million out of 18-19 and moved it to 17-18.
And move those pieces of equipment over. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. We're following the current plan that Mike and the city has developed.
I want to accelerate that plan.
Okay, so then if you wanted to do that,
is there a problem, Mike? Tell me if I'm wrong. Am I going down the wrong path, or should we stay on the path of 17-18 and spend a lot of the more money on equipment in 18-19?
No, I would agree that we'd spend more money next year.
What?
On equipment, yeah. We could definitely replace more equipment next year.
So even if we took a portion more, Dave, and I don't know what your plan is. Mike, I don't know what your plan is, and I don't know if I moved $500,000 from 18-19 to 17-18, I don't know how much equipment that would buy or what type of equipment that would buy. All I know is that we only have one street paver, and I had to, and you know, you've been in conversations with Betty, I had to raise hell with the administration about getting another paver because we got all these streets that need to be paved, and we only have one street paver, and if it breaks down, we can't do any paving. We're on a very short window of opportunity to do paving, and fortunately, we're gonna get that, and I appreciate that.
But the paver is like $2.8 million, and it could give you an idea of what exactly that kind of money will buy.
And remember, that's not in our plan.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that. But I also know where some of that funding can come to pay for that paper. Doesn't have to come out of the streets, it can come out of the WID money, right, Dave?
I don't think so. I don't think you're gonna be able to buy equipment directly.
Well, we
from
can
them.
lease equipment though.
That, we would have to make sure that is an eligible expense.
Okay.
Because I can certainly tell you, they gave us a very hard time on hydro vacuum.
I don't wanna digress too much. You go ahead through the department. You and I are privately gonna have this conversation, Dave. You and I and Dawn.
Look,
I mean, just because.
I don't find any objection to moving, if you wanna move part of the 3.4 million into 17-18 to accelerate the process, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
We're following the current plan that's been approved.
Okay, and who approved that plan? Council didn't approve that plan. No, I don't want to put anybody on the spot.
No, not you. I originally wanted to replace 11% of the vehicle this year, and when we went through the budget process, it was cut down to 7%.
Okay. No, you're fine, Mike. I mean, look, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I just want to.
The plan is.
I didn't see the plan. I didn't vote for the plan. It's your plan. I don't want to screw up your plan, but I want to enhance your plan. Let me put it that way.
I would welcome that.
Okay. Dave, you and I had that conversation.
Okay.
You guys okay with that?
I'm fine with it, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, the next page you want to turn to, we're gonna go into the debt funds. Debt funds, the peak section. Page 143 or 145,
Can I
Mr.?
excuse myself from this part?
No, you cannot. No, you cannot. No, you cannot. Okay, on page 143, 145, what you have here is Fund 298. And basically what is happening, I'm sorry, 295, Section 108, debt funds.
What are you ready?
We're on page 143.
Page 143 or /145, under the peak tab.
It's right under the pink tab. It's one page.
Peak
There's
tab.
a couple of pages.
Okay, either 143 or 145, depending on your book. 145. Look, as a council, in my opinion, this is the most important section in the whole budget. This is the first thing that you want to make, as a finance director, I want to make sure is funded, is the debt funds. You have to make sure that you have the money set aside to pay your bonds, or pay the loans that are out there. Okay, so here on page 143, 145, we have the 500 block project. What ends up happening here is we have dollars coming in and dollars going out in each of the three sections, the 500 block project, business loans, section 108 projects, and then the second section 108 business loan project. Any questions here on page 143, 145?
Oh, I'm sorry. Jackie?
I'll do my best.
Manhattan Place, who owns that?
I don't, Manhattan Place at the top is done, but I don't know. I don't know.
And the land bank owns well,
I don't know who owns it. I'm sorry.
I can tell you though, that in this year, they
Jimmy Crawley owned it and he sold it, didn't he?
I think
Didn't he get like?
I think the land bank ended up with it, to be honest with you.
They might, I don't know. I just know that the loan, our obligation, the loan has been paid off for Manhattan Place and OK
It's
Industry.
been paid off?
This
Yes.
year, we are done with
Yeah.
Manhattan Place and
OK
OK,
Industries
and
has
OK
been
Industry,
paid.
yes.
That's
Those are both, they are paid, the city has paid, the obligation, it's over.
So these two are paid in full?
Right.
Yes.
That's why you don't see anything under the recommended columns.
Okay.
Good questions. Okay, anything else on page 143, 145? Okay, moving along, we're gonna go to page 146, I'm sorry, 144, 146. And you have, continuing your section 108 loans, you have West Carpenter Road, you have the Michigan Trust section 108 loan, and then we have transfers in, coming to the fund of 15,641.00. Any questions here on page 144, 146, on the section 108 loans? Okay, moving along then, Fund 301, your debt service, general voted funds. You have, now, the funding for these loans comes from the Public Improvement Fund. We have a levy that goes into
It's our 401 fund.
401 fund. Oh, I'm sorry, 402.
I'm sorry, yeah. thank you.
Don is corrected me. There you go. So what we have here is this is the first section. Thank you, Don. Where am I here? Page 145, 147. This is the first one. The first 7 line is this one here. The first one. Yeah, the one. There we go. The first one is the parking lot bonds, DDA. The second one is, I'm sorry, the first one is the emergency loans, I apologize. And then you also have the DDA in the first piece, and that's the interest. And then you have 2 emergency loans in the first department, and you have the DDA parking, and then you have the principal portion of those loans. So what you have here in this fund is 2 emergency loans and the DDA loan, and that's being funded from the 402 fund. Any questions here?
Just real quick, Don or Dave, the DDA is now pretty much covering that expense of that bond, are they not, or?
No, we recoup their TIF dollars, and with property taxes and that being so low, we only recoup probably, I think we projected the year coming up, 257,000 is all that we're going to recoup probably from them. And their principal payment is gonna be 330,000, and the interest payment is 397,000. So, the city will be on the hook.
The parking revenue downtown is not generating enough revenue to cover.
Right, I don't even think they generate enough to cover their expense for even the upkeep on that,
I haven't seen a
parking.
payment.
Parking, yeah, so,
I haven't seen a payment from the parking.
yeah.
What?
Parking revenue.
You haven't seen a payment?
I haven't seen
We recapture their TIF dollars.
That's all we get is the tip dollars. We don't get the parking. I haven't seen any parking money coming in.
Well, I have a conversation with the DDA, but I always thought that, the DDA transferred money to, the city to help cover the debt, bond debt, for the parking debt.
They do, according to the agreement, when we took out the bond, they were supposed to give us, we could recapture their TIF money, because we have to legally give that to them, and then they send it back to us in a check, okay, so they do that every June. And then it was going to be money that they were gonna receive from parking meters and any parking revenue that they bring in downtown, but they're just not bringing in, that revenue, and we do get a copy of their financial statements every year for the DDA.
But I don't believe that money, is that money been delivered to us?
Not for this year, it comes in June.
June. Okay. No, I'm talking about the parking money. Does the parking money come to us?
No.
Okay,
But
we don't see
parking
it,
money doesn't
we don't
come-
see any parking, okay, that's
So
what I
we
thought.
don't get any parking revenue anymore.
That's what I thought,
We
okay.
used to.
Okay.
We used to, we don't get, but we were what was supposed to happen, Dave, and I think I'm right on this, Don, help me if I'm wrong, that the, parking revenue that was being generated for the DDA, after we allowed them to change the ordinance to allow the DDA to put in the meters and collect the revenue, that increase in their revenue was supposed to help cover that bond debt for the parking debt. And we have not received a payment from them, from the parking debt, bond debt that we have,
We've only got the recapture dollars from the TIF.
from the TIF.
Yeah, only your tip capture is coming in, that's all that's coming in, is
It's
tip
just a small
capture.
portion.
That's all you're getting is tip capture,
It's
so
like
we're,
0.5% or something.
Yeah, and so we're making that up. I mean, that's crazy.
Right.
I mean, why even have a DDA? The DDA should be, what should be happening is the growth in the downtown area should be all reinvested, all,
Well, if you go back and look at the minutes of the meeting that they voted for the parking deck, you'll be able to read my comment. Right, guys?
nice. I guess let me tell you, when I was in YDOT, we were capturing 3/4 of the town. It was tremendous. It was a $7 million TIF. And everything went back into the municipality, into
The
infrastructure.
reason that we're not getting a TIF is because of all the tax incentives that are in the TIF area.
Okay.
Okay?
Who controls that?
I'm just saying, I know. I mean, it's a balancing act.
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely,
a balancing
absolutely,
act.
absolutely. Okay, I'm pleased to report that we are ahead of schedule. Okay, and the next group coming in is human resources at
What time do they do?
at 3:30.
Well,
Now-
since they're coming at 3:30,
You want me to call them?
I
Oh.
got Sam here. If Sam wants to come up
Yeah.
and just kind of do his thing today because we can't do it on next Tuesday.
Oh, sit next to me, Sam.
Oh, I get to sit next to you.
Yeah, come on.
Because like the only time I'll be sitting next to you, you got something for me.
Don't let him reach in your pocket.
Ah,
He'll take your money, Sam. And don't sign anything.
I know, I'm not. Well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for letting me be, as I've done in previous years. Just so happens in the last 5 years, I guess we've been relevant when it comes to the 5 or 6 different EMs and the current finance director or deputy. I've requested on the record, under the process, copies of the budget, the fringes, and haven't received it, so I'm a little at disadvantage, but I'm used to it being a union rep. I usually start at a disadvantage. So what I will do is, I'm not going to keep you very long, but I did prepare what I could based upon the information I was able to get. Seems how I haven't received a nice book with what the proposed budget was for the various departments. So I'm going to give everybody a handout that I made up, and I'll start by giving it to Don and David.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sam, now are you also going to be representing 1799 today?
I'm touching PC 1799 tonight.
Okay.
This afternoon. Ron plans on coming on Tuesday next
Okay.
week to wrap up what I might miss.
Okay.
And I'm going to speak on something that affects him because I thought it would be better that I spoke on it than something that he can't. I mean, it would be like
Okay.
an oxymoron for him to advocate for his cut out of the budget that he's concerned about. So with that being said, over the past several years, the city of Flint's had several leadership changes in regards to the emergency managers. During this whole time, there's been a push to outsource work, sell assets, to table services. One of those services that was tabled was the number of people that were reduced in the customer service area, and all through that process, I, as a union leader, said, what effect does it have on the workers, because that's who I represent, but given that I do know that we work off tax dollars, so I'm always aware that those are our bosses. Those are how we survive. Those are who we should take care of regularly. Now, I will be the first to say not every one of my members may feel that way, but they do. Some don't. Some do what they're supposed to, some don't. So also during this time, over the last 3 or 4 years, commitments were made by various levels of administration as they continue to ask employees to do more. There was a commitment to reallocate positions in 2014 to current. All utilities was reorged. Titles were changed, levels were increased, responsibilities and work was increased. At the same time, ASME was told we was going to be done in street maintenance with Fleet, DCD, city clerk, and others, and wasn't. They were committed. Just as they did through utilities. All of utilities was reorged. That's when they were pushing, and this doesn't have anything to do with the two people sitting to my left. I want to make that clear. So, what affects now is we haven't played a role in being able to have a discussion with the finance team from the union other than here. But yet employees continue to take on the work and do what they were told to do. During this whole time, there was positions that were non-bargaining unit positions, still current, being filled. We were asking council today to put these changes back in the budget. We've had services tabled and put on the shelf during the time of a dictatorship. And on that shelf, they still stay. They stay on that shelf. ASME has 20 to 25 budgeted positions vacant still as we speak. Not filled directly impacts the services that we provide for the taxpayers. ASME is where the rubber meets the road. Most of those are budgeted. Vacant positions are in utilities, which is where the water prices is at. The city of Flint stated that they were going to have a wage study conducted so we could bring our wages up to date in line with other communities. In doing so, this was going to help attract and retain employees. At this state, that does not happen. So if you open up the page to the first page, you'll see that I'm talking about Fleet. Over this I don't know what's been discussed. I do know that there's been several division heads and department heads. I guess they come to me, and they probably come to some of you and say, hey, I proposed this in the budget, and they blame everything on the finance director.
That's all right.
I understand that given the role and that we're still in a financial strapped city, that how difficult it would be for a finance director, because the finance director has to continue to operate on what's available and do some things that aren't always, going to be pleasant to the people. So what I was unable to do is what I have here is these areas that I've identified are areas that were told by various levels of administration. Waste collection's been eliminated, Parks and Recs was eliminated, demolition was eliminated, traffic engineering services were eliminated. These are areas that other people took on some responsibility. Some were contracted out, but there was still some additional responsibilities put on some areas like streets, like Fleet, and some others to take that responsibility on. They were told when they took that responsibility on that they were going to be given a reallocation. Those responsibilities were going to be added in the current job descriptions, and that there was going to be an allocation for that headache and for that service. Still to this date, that has not been done. It's been 3 budget cycles in some instances, 2 in others. So I thought, well, I need to make this aware. It doesn't seem like when I ask certain elements of the administration, what are we doing? All I've ever heard is we don't have the money. We don't have the money. Well, I know that if you go to your PSWs the previous budget years, you will see that what I have in here, the majority of it, if not all of it, is in previous PSWs and previous budgets. So what I did is I attached, Fleet is the first one. We have posted positions for mechanics, can't get any, because the wage is too low. When we do get them, they give them a pay discretion at the 5-year rate or the 3rd-year rate, and then that person doesn't know when they get that 5-year or 3-year rate that they just give up any advancements for those first 5 years, and half of them don't know that. And you're going to have the HR director in here. You may ask him questions. He shares some of the same concerns that I do about where we're at with the wage study and try to retain and attract and keep people. So the first page goes through what was committed for the area of Fleet. The numbers come off the city's payroll numbers. What I had a hard time trying to figure out is, without a budget or a proposed budget or something that talks about your indirect and direct fringes, I was told by several people that prepared budgets that went to finance that the indirect or the direct fringe was 10.49. The direct fringe is a number that's determined by if you're a DC or DP and a lot of other things. So I couldn't put that in here. So that's something that the finance department probably can put a number on. When you go to the second page of my Ask Me document, you will see that street maintenance, I know, is the department I'm from. Street maintenance was the department that was asked to have additional responsibilities put on them. Everybody's had additional responsibilities, but above and beyond. We will do our part and always have. But I don't like it when somebody's given a commitment, and I'm given a commitment, and I handshake, and then it goes south. Because we change to another EM, or because we change another finance director, or we hire a city administrator that wasn't part of it, it's gone on. Some of this is under litigation and arbitration. Some of it isn't. But I have no reason to mislead anybody. I have no vested interest here other than I represent workers, and I think that vacant positions that are budgeted, that affect the service that we have of taxpayers, is important to our community to have those positions filled so we can provide the full service. In streets, you see what the effect would be. And I made some footnotes to that so you would have it. I also have extra copies of these, of what I gave you for your colleagues to have so that they can have what you have. So 4 pages back is DCED. Now, I don't like to repeat things, but for anybody who might have said that doing this is a raise, yeah, it is a raise. But it doesn't mean that you have to give everybody a raise. But there has been other people already getting raises. They just haven't been in my bargaining unit or asked me. They've been in exempt status. They've been in positions that are for appointed people. And at some point, we're going to have to do where the rubber meets the road and get those services done. So on this page is commitment that was given by a division head and a department head.
So can I ask a question real quick?
Yep.
So when I look at, and I'll just take the top one, Dana South, who's no longer here, and I see a level 28, and then I see a step 7. Explain that to me. Are there different steps in the process for pay raises? Is that what that is?
Step 7 is something that the city uses, but what it is like the first 6 months is one step, the second 6 months is the second step, the first year is the third step, the second year is the fourth step.
20 years is a step 7, or some whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that 7 calculates to 20 years, but your example, every step is number of years you've been here. And then when you get to 5, it goes from 5 to 10 as a step. 11 to 15 or 16 is a step. 16 to 20 is a step.
And then what's a CS39?
What's?
Is it a CS39 where you go in and make an adjustment to someone's wages?
CS39 is the one thing that the city of Flint has failed to respond to, and that's one of my grievances that I have pending against the city is the 5 CS39s that have put in under the collective bargaining agreement, because the April of 2012, the imposed contract took away the formerly known procedure of CS39, which could be done by an individual of any category, whether it was non-bargaining unit. They took that out and made it specific that that the union could only put 1 a quarter, and the president had to put it in. I did 1 a quarter when Erica Hunter was here, and when Anthony Chubb was here, and they didn't get no response to my request.
So, and I'm kind of where I'm going with this, just so that I understand, because I don't get into your contract, but would a CS 39 in a Dana South step be able to accomplish the same thing that you're asking for here?
CS 39 would have to be determined by the employer.
I mean,
It could.
That's what I'm asking.
It could.
Could it?
It could, yeah.
Because typically, we don't have to budget for that at the beginning of the year, we just do budget on it during the course of the year, if that's accomplished. Is that correct? That is how we do that?
Yes.
All right, thanks, Sam. You cleared that up, because I don't know. All right.
So basically, the 4th page in is DCED, and these people that are on the page. And I kind of don't like putting people's name on a page, but this was the only way I could get the documents that I was given. So it's pretty much self-explanatory. And then the very last page is, because on these pages aren't just 1,600 members, there are also some 1,799. So Don will be back on Tuesday, probably with some other things that he has. The last page, I don't understand, and I'll just say that previous budget to this one, there was a standby allocation for the water pollution control. And Don Lewis was the individual who would be the one that was called because of his title. Water pollution control facility operations supervisor. He's also the safety coordination for all of City of Flint. And he's also the one that may help prevent backup in basements, which kind of got us in trouble because we didn't have first responders, kind of why we had to pay part of the money we paid in our lawsuit. So instead of him standing up here arguing, for or making a case for, I guess that didn't get put, this specific back page didn't get put in the PSW from the department. So this is not a finance, I guess Bob Case didn't put it, or whoever made that, whoever did the PSW for the water pollution control didn't add that. So it was in last year's, and I told him I would take that up for him today because that's the way we should do it, so that there's no misunderstanding or anything. So that's what I have. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Chairperson. With the negotiations that were, well, I don't know if they were actually negotiation, but we know that Public Act 436 allow for the negotiation and changing of contracts, and I was wondering, does this fall under that or no?
The Public Act 436 and the emergency management law, they just implemented contracts unless the bargaining units agree to sit down and come up with an agreement. Like in the police department, they just implemented the police contract. The fire department, I think, was one that set up, I believe, 1,600. Early on, they had an agreement, and so I don't think they imposed the contract on 1,600.
They imposed the contract in 2012 on 1,600, and then we negotiated somewhat a contract later, withdrawing federal and state lawsuits that we had pending against the City of Flint. What I have proposed to you today has nothing to do with the standard negotiations. The negotiations or the imposing of a contract was already in place. These are agreements that were handshook and negotiated by management, with me not even there, with the employees. And what has happened is they were told by a division head or a Howard Croft or a Duffy Johnson or a Jerry Ambrose that this was going to be done. And in return, you're going to take on this additional responsibility, as everyone is doing. And they were told that this would be in the budget And some of this goes all the way back to 2014. And I've tried with the current administration to say, hey, make it right, and it's gone on deaf ears. That's why I'm sitting here.
Is the ability to do it there, Scott?
I'm just asking for consideration that
Sam just wanted to make sure that the funding's available within these departments to make this happen.
what the administration said to us is the funding wasn't there. What I did is went back and got 2016 and 15 PSWs and 14s and said, yeah, it is. Here's the budget, here's the PSW, so the funding is there. If you pass the budget now, and the funding isn't there, then they're gonna be able to continue to say that the funding isn't there. So tell me to not use, but keep it real with me. Don't make it fake, keep it real with me.
So Scott, if he's saying that there was a budget that showed that those funds were there and they were never implemented, where did those funds go?
They roll back into the general fund at the end of the year.
So it probably went to fund balance or whatever.
Well, it'll be at the end of the year, they would use it to, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, if there's an over expenditure within that department, they'll reallocate that money. And then if at the end of the budget, there's, 10,000 or 5,000 left over that wasn't spent, it just goes back either into the general fund or the fund that the money come out of. If it's water fund, sewer fund, or general fund, it would just go back into the bottom line of that fund. And then we would do a budget, amendment at the end of the budget year.
To allocate correctly to appropriation, sure. You would do a budget amendment at the end of the year to allocate correctly so you stay in compliance with Public Act 268.
And then sometimes we end up doing it by time we do the audit.
What I'm asking for is the consideration to do the right thing when people are given a commitment. If I give you a commitment, I'm gonna keep my commitment. And when somebody gives my membership a commitment, I expect them to keep their commitment. And it's easy for people to, I understand we're on financial burden. I understand it probably better than a lot of people. I have a family member that's retired out of the city of Flint. I have a grandfather, and my dad's still alive, so I want his pension checks to still come. I want there to be pensions for people that are still working here. I've been here 24 years. I'm very much in tune of we're not out of the woods. But if I don't take this opportunity to express my concern about keeping a commitment and put pressure on to do the right thing, then it's not gonna be in the budget. You guys will adopt a budget after you compromise with the administration, whatever that is, and then I'll be left out and my members will be left out. And some of that creates some of the hardships that we run into. It's been since 1999 since my membership's had a raise. Across the board raise. I'm not here advocating for a cross the board raise. I'm advocating to do the right thing when somebody gives a commitment. And the amount of money that I'm talking about on the budget we have, even though it's tight, is not a large amount of money. This whole package is probably $200,000. So I'm just here asking for your consideration to find a way in your due diligence to find a way to get this back in the budget. And I would hope that the finance department would honor my request so that I can have a budget that I requested for, so I would have been more prepared today to be able to put it in a nice book and with your numbers. I don't have that, so I did the best I could to recognize that. And if you look at any correspondence, you can, and I think some of you have talked to some of the areas. You don't have to take my word. You don't have to take this union leader's word. Talk to the division head. Thank you. Thank you, Finance and Don.
Scott, could I ask him a question, please? Sam, I noticed the last two pages, you did have the positions of neighborhood enforcement official and some names and stuff. Are all these people still working or not working in those positions?
Dana Self left because of financial reasons to go to a different city to provide the same services here because he got tired of fighting through, not getting his seniority raise on time, and also being told in 2-3 budget cycles that it's in the budget, it's coming. And that's another position that you're having a hard time right now filling because we don't pay enough money to start out. So most of all the names of the people are here, but specific to DCD, I think Dane is the only one that left. And I've had you know on the DCD page, I'm glad, so David knows, I have an individual, his name is Kevin Miller. Kevin Miller was considered, to the beginning of this process, not to be a team player. There was job duties that were being created for a position called grant coordinator. They were hiring people in off the streets in grant coordinator. I challenged the fact that the grant coordinator mirrored some of the job duties of Kevin Miller's and program specialist, and was able to show that 50% of the grant coordinator was 50% of Kevin's work. There was concern from the area that, well, can he do this full job of a coordinator? So I sat down, well, HR and I sat down, and then me and Suzanne Wilcox sat down, and Emily, and we developed a plan to see if Kevin Miller was capable of doing the job. And he did a turnaround, and he was capable of doing the job. When they brought the PSW up this year, still having 4 grant coordinators in it, finance said, we're not giving you the 4, you have 3, and we're going to keep the program specialist. Hence again, is a point that I'm making. The standard process takes place. We've been to HR, we went back to the department. The department said, okay, if you become a team player, show us you can do the full job. We'll go in the future budget and we'll plug you in as the grant coordinator. You can't do that now. Well, you can if the budget proposal isn't the same, but the budget proposal that finally made it to you.
This is the May 18, 2017 City of Flint budget hearing.
So now Kevin has done the work they said he needed to do and can't get what they said he did. We're going to hire people after him in that position, take half of his responsibility and not do nothing for him after they said they would. That's why I'm here with all this. I don't typically I come to budget hearings, yeah, I've participated with the city before and with council quite regularly. I try to stay out of, I can be a politician, probably with the best of them. But we gotta get some realness to the city of Flint. So that's all I have. If you have any other questions, I don't wanna run into my colleagues' lines over here. Or my boss behind me. You guys know him? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Can I leave some of these for your colleagues?
Yeah, just leave them right up here. I'll give them, I'll give them to the rest of the council people.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Charlie, how are you today? I'm getting the hot seat. Just put it right there, and I'll pass it off. Thanks, Sam. Charlie, how are you today?
All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right, Mr. Chair, I would ask the council to turn their books to page 23 or page 24 under the green tab, general fund. We're going to go back into the general fund. Okay. We are going to, I'm sorry, 23 or 24. In the upper left-hand corner, it should say personnel. What do you have there, Mr. Council President? Do you have 23? Yours is 23 also? Okay, very good. So it's 23.
personnel office.
So we're at 23, 24, and 25 we're gonna cover here. Okay, so what you have here is you have the personnel office, you have Charlie McClendon's section. On page 23, we will have the wages and salaries of his staff. You'll have their supplies, professional services that they utilize. There's a citywide wage study that's built into this. You have copying services and printing and publishing. Any questions here on page 23 of your budget book?
I have a quick question for you, David. Under professional services for 2017-18 recommended budget, it has 20,000 allocated there, but it doesn't have a breakdown of what those are for in that year.
Yeah, you're gonna see 18, 19. You can use the descriptions under that are on the left-hand side, but 18, 19 is where the numbers were placed. Okay, so it's gonna carry forward into both. So you're gonna have shredded for $500. You're gonna have the integrity testing. That's gonna happen every year. We just put it in. We just put the footnote amounts in 18, 19. We didn't put it into 17, 18. But it's the same expenses.
So you're saying that the integrity testing and the 4 laptops is gonna happen again in the...
Yeah, integrity testing will continue year in and year out. That's something that happens in the department all the time. Okay?
But not the quote of the laptop, I'm sure. That doesn't have to make a year though.
Well, that's because on the photo, if I'm looking at, my eyes are bouncing, there's nothing there. That's not gonna, you have zeros there. The 4, 5, Q4 is for the laptops for this year. Okay? So when you look at the quote for 4 laptops for the HR staff, 4,524, that's for the 16, 17 that we're projecting.
Oh, you're saying that the 18, 19
Yes.
is what you're, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what is this on here that says unpredictable expenses?
That is you're gonna need that every year. The expenses will shift from one vendor type to another depending on what the department needs.
Right, but what are some of the things that are under unpredictable expenses?
Sometimes if we are having difficulty, let's say with respect to some recruiting, then we might have to go and get with a firm contract, and we pay them a certain amount of money. That we had envisioned that we had known that we would have to do that, but due to difficulties that related to that particular recruitment process or some other unanticipated issue. Can I tell you what that might be? Well, it's kind of nature. When we deal with sick, we have to ponder and wonder, okay, well, who are we going to do first? My staff, usually Dr. Lewis and I, and we will have a fund to go to provide.
So and the only reason why I'm asking is that's the only year that that's done. You're saying that in years.
Yeah, it comes across each and every year.
And so it didn't come up in this year? Because you had budgeted everything properly, there was no unexpected
No, we did have some unexpected expenses when we had to, what we do is borrow from another area that we didn't replace. We had to do that several times.
Okay.
Any other questions on 23, 24? I'm sorry, 23? Everybody's book is on 23, I'm sorry.
And does any of this include like recruitment efforts, or have we not gotten there yet?
We haven't got there yet. Good question, good question. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. You're welcome. We're gonna move to page 24. Okay, you'll see finishing up Charlie's education and training for his staffers. And then, of course, we're going to get into training in general, work across testing materials, promotional exams. And then when you carry it onto page 25, you'll see the supervisor training, various other trainings that go on across the city that come out of the personnel budget. Any questions here on page 24 or
said that this was the thing.
Yes, what was your question again? I'm with you, I'm having an Alzheimer's moment.
What was the answer?
I don't know, about
Oh,
recruitment,
recruitment,
about
you're
training.
Recruitment. Good for you, Mr. Council
Get a
President.
cover recruit.
Thank you so much. Only because, we got major positions that are in need of filling.
Correct,
DPW director,
correct.
the position that the Skillman Foundation has, a fund grant position, chief recovery officer.
Right.
And then, those are just some really big ones.
Correct.
And so, I was just wondering, where's the budgeted dollars for that? And what are we doing? Like, how far are we going to recruit some of the people for these very big?
I'm the chief recovery officer, that position in particular is gonna show up in in grant funds. So when the grant funds come out, and that's brought out by planning and development, when those grant dollars get shown to you at that time frame, that's where that position will be. So that's not part of this budget that you see here today.
No, but is human resource responsible for trying to help us find that position or no?
Yeah, let me just respond. Yes, we are. Whatever efforts we normally do for any classification, we get with administration, for example, on a lot of these positions. And we tell them, we go over the process, and if we have to do some preliminary posting, we do that. We are involved, yeah.
Right, but I mean.
For example, to write the job description, we might get a cursory description, we might get a position. We take it and we hone that to get it exactly what is required. For example, what does this thing look like out in the field, out in the market? And what's the interest requirements? What does administration maybe envision them being? What should they do?
Right.
Then we develop that. We assist them in that process.
Right, but I mean, what does human resource do to go and find that body?
That body, well, if the position is appointed or not, then,
Not a point, I'm
just
speaking.
saying,
Okay.
it may vary depending on the nature of the position.
DPW director.
DPW director, that one was going through the grant. And if I recall.
Some of it was funded by grant, is that right, David?
Right,
Okay.
but it was going to be through a search fund. And so what's currently going on is the search fund, that is going to be let out to bid through our purchasing department, et cetera, finance, so that company which is going to do the search to help us get that position.
So you guys are not doing that?
No.
Okay.
Yes, I wanted to ask something regarding, something on page 23. It mentions about the citywide wage study, $10,000, and then, but to submit a bid in the future for $40,000. Has there been any type of wage study started?
No, we haven't started as of yet. Our intentions, the plan, what we wish to do is to go forward with that this coming fiscal year, because a lot of the things that you've been hearing probably from certain departments, certain divisions, has to do with compensation, not being able to hire people at appropriate rates, or to hire them, period, and to get them, to attract and to retain, once they come here, to keep them here. So part of that, which I think I kind of mentioned my last time before committee in the other room, was that we do need to have a wage study so that we can determine what our classification rates should be, both internally and externally. Because if we don't, we're going to still have this problem that, for example, Mr. Muma just mentioned to you that some classifications have not had an increase since 1999.
Right. So that's why I'm wondering, when are we going to catch up and be appropriate with other areas so we can
Well,
get our
we are
workers?
we're requesting from you, administration, everyone as relates to this budget, to provide the money so that a study can be done, and that we will that we can earnestly and honestly go forward and do that study. That's what we're asking for, so we can go forward and do it.
So Charlie, let me ask you, who's gonna do the request for proposal for someone to do that study? Are we gonna go like to the Michigan Municipal League, or how are we gonna, who's going to prepare the resolution or the request for proposal?
What normally,
Wage and equity study here for the city of Flint.
if we do it like we normally do it, or like it's usually done in most areas, it would be HR and finance and purchasing. Those three entities get together to decide. For example, we need to develop and show what we want to do, what the proposal should cover. Then with finance and with purchasing, then we'll go that route. And I think the process as far as resolution and whatnot would be as is normally done here. We, when I have one, I generally get with the legal to assist in putting that forth.
Do we have any idea what one of those studies would cost?
We're thinking, when we said 40,000, we're thinking we can get something done within that particular range. If we get something that's going to be a little bit higher, then we may have to come back. But I've been to, well, where I used to work, we did go through that process where we got a wage study, a complete wage study for the institution. You know.
So Dave, would we be further ahead to take the portion of funding from 202, 203, 590, 591 in general fund, since we're looking at all the employees across of the city, and then, I mean, are we looking at
Certainly.
new wage and equity study? Are we also looking at police and fire? Are we looking at,
Well,
how are we breaking this wage and equity study out? I mean, to me, I think that's important. I mean, are we gonna do one for department heads and general city employees and supervisors, and are we gonna do one for police and,
Well, let me just.
and one for fire? I mean,
Well, let me just address the, other than public safety, yeah, you would need to know where you are with respect to your salaries for public safety also, because I'm sure you hear, or you're going to hear the arguments about we're training ground, where people get hired in here once they complete it, now they can go elsewhere for $2 or $3 more than that. So if we don't know where we are, we most definitely and most certainly should do a study to find out where we should be. Now, as it relates to internally, the other departments, you got to know, you have to be able to determine where your top administrators are with respect to your supervisors and managers, and then the line employees. But generally, what you do with respect to administrators and whatnot, you compare them to administrators elsewhere, and depending upon your budget and your ability to pay, then you will be. You can determine to be at market, X amount of percent below market, or even above. Those things you decide based upon what your study shows. As it relates to the other classifications, you are concerned about internal and external equity. You've got to take a look at that. And so I guess in short, I'm saying it would be probably prudent to look at the entire picture as it relates to the city of Flint employees, to know where you are. But then the bottom line is, this is the thing that you got to consider, is once you do the study, and it tells you all these things, what are you going to do with it? Is the money going to be there for you to make those decisions to move people up? Or do you have fortitude to move people down or keep them where they are when it shows that they're okay? So those are decisions that you have to look at once you get your study complete. I can say this also. Sometimes when you do your study, you may find that, for example, your steps, you got like first year, and you go to the 5th year. And then you got longevity rates. Probably 3 or 4 longevity rates. Some institutions have decided that it takes too long to get to the top of the scale, and they compress their wage scale. But there's a cost to that. So when you're doing your analysis, you got all these things to look at. Are you willing, or are you capable?
People. I mean, if we can't attract people and we can't retain people.
Right.
I mean, don't you think it's important that we at least start with one area of the city to do a wage and equity study? I mean, look at, Charlie, you weren't here when the emergency managers first came in here.
Right.
They decimated the city. I mean, Mike Brown, and I use his name because he was terrible at dealing with employees. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, and we've cut so bad because of his direction as an emergency manager, and then followed by, you know, Ed Kurtz and Darnell Early, that we can't even retain, you know, building inspectors because they're going to smaller communities, getting better benefits, better wages, and better working conditions than what we're providing here.
Right.
So I mean, it's, Dave, even in your department, the finance department, your employees are underpaid compared to, I mean, all I have to do is pick up the phone and call the city of Lansing, the city of Warren, and ask what the employees in the finance department make. And I'm telling you right now, the employees in your department, Dave, without looking at that, are making 15 to 20% less than people in comparable sized cities of the city of Flint, regardless of what their financial condition is. So we got to do something to be able to keep important people like Dawn.
Right.
I know you guys are planning on leaving, but Dawn and all the other people in your department, we got to do what we got to do to retain them. If it means eliminating people in the administration office that don't have nothing to do, I mean, you know, sometimes we're more top heavy than we are looking at the actual people that do the work. And I want, there's going to be either money put in a project account, and we haven't done projects account in the city of Flint for a long time. When I first come on the city council, and I was the finance chairman, I would put money in a project account, and I would say, this money is in this project, and we're gonna spend this money, and you better spend it, because if you don't, it's gonna carry over to the next general fund year, and that project is gonna stay here until that money gets spent. We've not had a project account in the city of Flint, and I don't think Don worked in the finance department then, but I mean, I'm telling you, there used to be 40, 50 projects account in the city of Flint. What do we have to do to get money specifically for a wage and equity study here in the city of Flint? If I have to put $100,000 in a project account, Dave, you and I can sit down and we can find enough money to come up with $100,000 to put in to get a realistic wage and equity study for every department in the city of Flint. Am I correct?
Sure.
So what do we have to do? I mean, we hear that we can't, and I'm not trying to get on a soapbox, but if you've heard and I've heard, and Charlie, you hear it every day, we can't get our positions filled. We got vacant positions in the city of Flint. We got people leaving. What do we have to do? So how are we going to accomplish this thing, Charlie? Tell me what you want.
Let me just say, what you're talking about as far as additional monies, that's required, but it's also, that would probably be a good start. Pick out where we want to start addressing. We can't do it all at once. We got to start somewhere.
No, we can't. We got to start
somewhere.
in some areas.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to say the police department, the
Right.
sheriff department,
Right.
1,600, 1,700 employees. Tell me what we need to do. Dave, you or Charlie, you guys have heard this ever since we've started this process.
Well, we've set up $40,000.
$40,000 isn't going to do.
And if that isn't enough, then we'll have to do is we'll have to look at either on the revenue side into the general fund, or looking at other expenses that aren't as needed, would have to be eliminated in order to get this to the level that you want to get it to. But the good news is the line item's in, and we've allocated $40,000 to date. So if you want to increase that, then we need to look at the budget, determine what we don't need, what we do.
I'm asking you, Dave, you're the finance director, Charlie, you're the HR director, you guys deal in this area, is $40,000 enough? I mean, just be honest.
To do the entire play, probably
No, I'm
not.
not talking about the whole, I'm not.
To get
talking about
started,
the whole
yes.
thing.
To get
Yeah.
started.
Tell me what it's gonna take to start, to do a department, you know, and I'm not gonna pick the department, Charlie.
Mhm.
You know where the biggest need is
Right.
for employees. How much is it gonna cost to do a wage and equity study for that group of employees?
Well, what we set aside, I think that is appropriate enough to get started in the process.
To get started, 40,000.
Right. Yes.
How long is it gonna take to get an RFP back to do this process?
Oh, I'm thinking you got 30 days to put the RFP together, and then another 10 days to get it out and then
By
whatever.
July 1?
Oh, I don't think so. Not by July 1. In July,
the first
maybe.
quarter of the year?
First quarter of the new fiscal year, sure.
Correct. Yes.
Now, neither one of you guys are probably gonna be here. I mean, not that I want you to leave.
Mhm. But it still would go on. I mean, everyone in HR understands the urgency of getting that done. Everything that we've been doing since I've been here, you know, the issues that you might hear, some people might say is HR's doing this, doing that. It's all basically money driven. Classifications are at appropriate levels.
Charlie, I'm gonna ask you to privately tell me what department you think we should do a wage and equity study first.
Well, before you go there,
I wanna know which department, so that before I adopt this budget, I know what to expect.
You say privately, you mean like not here?
Huh? What's that?
You mean right here, tell you that? Later?
No, not right now.
Okay.
No, I'm not talking about right now. I'm not
Yeah,
talking
right,
about right now.
right,
I'm
right, you said
talking about
privately. Okay.
Before June 5th,
Okay,
I want the three of us to figure out what we're gonna do, because I think.
well, this is what I'm used to, if I may. Excuse me, Mr. Chair. The last study I was a part of, it went across the entire city, and it was the non-union staff. Okay, so when you look at union staff is going to be taken care of through the negotiation process and the comparable process that goes with the negotiation.
Well, let's do exempt employees then.
There you go. Okay, so now,
Just tell me.
but you're going to look at exempt employees, so then you're looking at exempt employees, and then you're doing a study on exempt employees across the entire city. That's the way you got to look at
there's
it.
not gonna be a lot.
Yeah, not by
Because
department.
they're cross department.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
That's how you gotta
To
look
me, exempt employees are classification throughout the city of Flint.
So what we would
I
do.
think, Don, are you an exempt employee?
Yeah.
Come on, okay.
So I think so if you want, if that's the direction that you want to take it, then we would look at the 40,000 for an exempt employee study. Because you're gonna get the union in the negotiation. You're gonna get the union look during the comparable process, and then you'll negotiate that across the board.
I understand, but if we do exempt employees, that will give this council an idea of how out of line we
Right,
are
right.
in comparison with other communities without affecting bargaining.
And
Right.
that's
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and negotiate Sam's contract. I mean,
Right.
that's
Correct.
not my job.
correct.
I mean, my job is to make, and I don't care if he hears me. I mean.
No, I was gonna tell them that we could do that. But I was gonna say we could do that,
I
but
mean,
we
you know,
don't.
Sam and I are friends, but we don't know what to
Okay.
agree on stuff. But
Okay,
the bottom line to me is this.
That's where you gotta go.
We've got to start to set the tone that we're gonna do something.
Right, right.
Start to address the issue because it's affecting morale, it's affecting recruitment,
right,
and it's clearly
No question.
affecting retention.
right, right.
So-
Absolutely.
So,
But I think my recommendation here would be that, look, you're gonna use this $40,000 to do a non-exempt study because you're gonna catch the union employees and that work when you go through the negotiation process. That would be your best way to spend this time.
and I'm fine with that, Dave.
Beautiful.
Charlie, I'm
Right.
fine with that.
Well, okay,
Because if it tells me that, Don's position in Kalamazoo, Lansing, and Warren is making 20% more than what Don's making here in the
Mhm.
city of Flint,
right,
then that tells me that when I do a budget amendment in January, that I'm gonna do something to make sure that Don's exempt position is comparable to Lansing Kalamazoo and Warren.
Right,
And then you guys have to take on the negotiations somewhere else. I mean,
Right,
you know,
right.
but that gives me the bar at where we need to be.
Right, because they're not gonna, because those non-exempt people aren't gonna be, they don't have anyone negotiating for them.
See,
So-
I don't appreciate, and I really don't like the fact that we are relying on a grant to be comparable to other communities to attract the DPW director.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's only a 2-year funding, and then what are you gonna do in year 3? If you got a dynamic character, you're gonna, the guns to your head, and you're gonna have to come up with the funding. And you don't wanna be in that position. I would agree.
We need to do something, we need to start to do something for the retention and attraction for long-term employees in the city of Flint.
Right.
We can't do it haphazard.
That's
Right.
This is a good start.
I think we definitely both agree with what she's saying, all three of us.
We're there.
I'm off my soapbox.
You're good.
Mr. Chairman.
You only did it once in 3 days. That's good.
What's that, Dave?
You only did it once in 3 days.
I just want to interject something real quick. I'm hearing the dialogue and I appreciate it. But when you get ready to do this study, I'm going to suggest strongly to all three of you, when this study is done, I heard something about the finance person, the HR person, and the purchasing department. Am I right?
Correct.
To do the study.
I want to bid out the study.
To bid out.
To put out, yeah.
I'm going to ask you to use the Michigan Municipal League. I'm going to ask you to use their services in helping with this project.
That's fine.
I'm going to ask that.
Okay.
Because they do this on a day-to-day basis. So I think we need to do that. That's my little small recommendation. Whenever you guys meet, you meet. Mr. Kincaid, I trust you to come out with whatever we need for this city to move it forward. Because it doesn't make sense that we're losing good workers. God knows I don't want to lose Don. I know, Mr. Sabu, you have to, but if somebody offers her $20,000, $30,000 more dollars, she's got to go. And I would probably say, what's wrong with you if you don't go? But we have to start doing something to, and I think you guys are on the right track, and I applaud you for it. But I think we need to use the Michigan League of Service to help us out in this endeavor. Okay?
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, one last comment on this topic, if I may. Over my last year being here in Flint, what I've noticed is that pension over salaries, it's been truly, when you look at benefits, usually it's healthcare and wages, you kind of negotiate one or the other and off you go. Here in Flint, it's more pension. Healthcare is healthcare, but in healthcare and pension has really gotten the lion's share of the resources versus salary here. That's my professional opinion looking at Flint over the last year.
But Dave, that's in every community. I mean, I watch the news, and they've got an issue in Saginaw County.
Well,
they have an issue in Grand Traverse County. They have an issue in Oakland County. It doesn't matter where we go. And there's 6, 7, 8 other communities just like us that have unfunded liability issues.
At the end of the day, like we stated earlier, that you got 50 million going out, you got 35 million coming in, and that gap that's a big gap.
I understand that. Okay. But you can't operate a city without personnel.
Right. Agreed. We're on the same page there.
And we can get rid of, if you had did my suggestion, you never would have had Murray's, because I would have went back to Furby's, but that's you guys.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
No, we're good.
Digression.
That completes, unless there's any other questions, that completes.
Is the administration coming today?
Yeah, so now they're scheduled for 4:30, so we're, again, 20 minutes. Congratulations, we're 20 minutes ahead of schedule. They're scheduled for 4:30.
I could deal with them right now without them being here.
Well, you did mention that you and I could negotiate Sam's contract if you want us to do that. Oh, no.
You don't want to negotiate a contract. Charlie, you don't want to negotiate a contract with me.
Charlie, let me see you for a minute.
Sam probably
Charlie.
up there, you can negotiate with these guys.
Check.
We're going to take a break? Is that what we're going to do?
We're gonna do Chair, so Dawn's gonna walk down to see if we can get them to come up early,
Okay,
okay? And if-
all right.
But in the
We're gonna
meantime,
take a few
absolutely.
minutes. I'm gonna take a few minute break.
Absolutely, that's fine.
Charlie, if you
Wait
wanna
out,
go,
went across one page. I
you
don't
wanna
know
go
what
out to
happened.
Redwood one night, I'll be glad to start.